can knock down shots as a big. So the pieces and the depth that Gino has at his disposal, that's another thing that we learned. And Blanca Quinones, to me, was the biggest difference maker. In a couple of games where AZ Fudd struggled knocking down shots, give North Carolina and Notre Dame credit for running AZ Fudd off the line. Yes, she could hit mid-range jump shots, but her three-pointers are what kills opponents. They run her off the line. She had a quiet day, and Blanca Quinones comes in off the bench and is huge for UConn. So to me, we learned a lot about Sarah Strong's versatility.
All right, take two. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. Some brief technical difficulties. We have figured it out. When I say we, I mean everyone except for me figured it out. Welcome in. Hopefully you had an incredible weekend. It was a wild one in the world of sports. And, of course, we are down to the Final Four in March Madness. Hopefully your bracket looks better than mine. You know what? I want you to go check up on the ESPN 700sports.com $1 Million Bracket Challenge. I want you to see where you're at. I just want you to ignore where I'm at, okay? When you track your bracket, make sure you're thinking about Big Willie's, Game Day Men's Health, Intermountain Bobcat, Budweiser, International Sportsman's Expo, and the Utah RV Super Show. They all help us out. They all brought it in. Just don't pay attention to where my bracket's at, all right? What an incredible upset. Well, not even upset. Just what an incredible comeback for UConn. 19 points down, and one of just 3 19-plus point comebacks in the history of Elite Eight basketball. 2005, Louisville over West Virginia came back from a 20-point deficit. 2001, Duke over Maryland after trailing by 22. And it's the first time that a 1 seed has lost after they led by at least 15 points at halftime in NCAA tournament history. Duke led 44-29 at the half. That means 1 seeds leading by 15 points at the half were 134-0 until this past weekend, and a wild tip in. It was like church ball, yard ball, the ball just bouncing all over everyone. And, of course, you get the heroes of March, Braylon Mullins, who, let's be honest, hadn't had a stunning game to that point, from 7 feet beyond the arc, ices it. With Braylon Mullins doing so, now his name goes down in history, UConn basketball history, right? I asked the question on Twitter, at RealOC Sports. I'd also like to hear from you on the text line, 877-353-0700. Do you have a favorite legend of March? Do you have a favorite March Madness guy that never really saw whatever heights he achieved in March Madness? Maybe it's a women's basketball player. Whatever you saw from somebody in the tournament specifically, and they never replicated that greatness over the course of their life. They never once, after whatever they did, whatever heroics you can remember from March Madness. Maybe they went on to the NBA, even a solid career, but you weren't screaming. No, the announcer wasn't screaming their name ever again. They're not at the bottom of a victorious dog pile ever again. That is what March Madness does for us. And as much as we love Cinderellas, and I join you in lamenting the fact that the transfer portal and the NIL situation have in some ways killed Cinderella or made it far less likely that we will get mid-majors or, random Patriot League type teams in the Final Four in the Elite Eight. What you really want to see when you get down to it, when you get to the Elite Eight, when you get to the Final Four, what you really want to see as a basketball fan is the kind of stuff you saw over the weekend. You want to see heavyweight programs slugging it out. You want to see big-time basketball. You want to see a couple of NBA lottery picks, and are they rising to the occasion, or are they choking their opportunities away? And how's that going to affect what they do moving forward and how the NBA treats them in the upcoming draft? You want to see these blue blood or new blood programs flirting with disaster, overcoming adversity, or maybe in the case of like Michigan, pushing through. Michigan's dominance has been obnoxious in this tournament. They're winning 23.5 points per game, the average margin of victory through the tournament so far.
They've scored over 90 points every game, too. I think they're the first team, or no, they're like one of 2 or 3 teams that have done that on their way to the Final Four. They had like 100 in the first game, 90-something the rest of the games. Yeah, they're not even making it close. Arizona has also been very dominant, but Michigan's been even more dominant than the Wildcats. And that's going to be a great game, by the way.
Those are the favorites to emerge as an eventual national champion, according to Vegas.
I'll say this. UConn and Illinois, I would not just say that neither of those teams have a chance. Like, if you've been watching Illinois in particular, they've also really risen to the occasion. I'm surprised, like everyone else, that Houston loses basically at home to Illinois, but I'm not surprised in this sense because Houston lost to Florida last year in large part because they had no size other than they had no like size on the wing. Florida had length for days. They had it again this year. One of the reasons why I picked them to win it all. Didn't go so well. Illinois is the same kind of way. They get every offensive rebound. Houston has great guards. They didn't have much else. And when you're only shooting threes from 25 feet away because you can't get into the lane, you're gonna struggle. Illinois can do that to people. So can Michigan. So can Arizona. And with Terrace Reed, UConn can do that too, but not much else. So I don't sleep on Illinois in particular, even with how dominant Arizona and Michigan have been.
Illinois out-rebounded Iowa by a margin of 17. When you're getting to crunch time in a tournament, when you're getting past that first weekend and, the wheat has separated from the chaff a little bit, if you're rebounding and giving yourself even an extra 10 possessions a game, you've got a great shot of winning against anybody. Despite whether there's a talent disparity, whether you don't have the same kind of shooters, if you give yourself an extra 10 possessions even over what your opponent has, just mathematically, the likelihood of you coming out on top increases drastically. If you're doing double-digit extra rebounds over whatever the opponent can do, that, by the way, that is what coaches salivate over, because this is March Madness. You're going to have some of those crazy loose ball scenarios. You're going to have probably a technical foul that nobody wants to talk about after a game. You're going to have a couple of unexplainable shots with somebody trying to be some ridiculous hero ball master. And the thing that erases all of those mistakes is extra possessions that you give yourself because you crash the boards hard. So Illinois is dangerous because of that.
D. Will's Illinois Illini fighting Illini, by the way.
D. Will, I reached out. We're going to see if we can get him on tomorrow. Maybe I asked him about today. Wasn't able to get on today. He's a busy man. He's jet setting all over. He's got all these business things going on. Like his
kids are into everything, right?
His kids are his kids. He's got two in college. Or I think the oldest maybe graduated from college, but he's got 2 college-age kids, 2 high school-age kids. So he's just got a lot going on right now. If you follow D. Will on social media, you saw a very hilarious experience of him watching Illinois try to advance. Like, he's the type of – it's funny because, of course, he was an elite basketball player, right? So sometimes – I mean, I've watched plenty of games with guys that were pros, and, like, sometimes they're just like, whatever, because, you've been there, you've done that. They don't get as intense as a fan as us random schlubs do.
Well,
D-Will's not the case.
Yeah, they're probably they probably feel very removed. It's like I'm not on the team anymore. Yeah. As much as I love my alma mater, I'm not on the team anymore.
It's just it depends on who you're sitting with or who you're talking to, but some people are incredibly passionate and some people are just like, yeah, man, I hope they do well.
D-Will is on the passionate side.
He's like, I'm not putting my rear end in a chair while this game is going on. It's very funny. Awesome. So you can follow him on social media.
First time, see
some of that.
One of the reasons why we wanted to bring him on, not just because he's a local legend and an Illini legend, but the last time Illinois has been to the Final Four, D-Will played for Illinois. They were the nearly undefeated Fighting Illini that lost to the Tar Heels in 2005 in the national championship game. He also, OC, I texted you this, he also has a unique perspective on the UConn game because he, as a 1 seed, playing for a 1 seed, was down by 15 in the second half to an Arizona team. I think it was under 5 minutes left, too, in the Elite Eight. And they had an incredible comeback to get to the Final Four, just like UConn. So I hope he can come on to talk about his Illini and give us an idea of what was going on in UConn's head as they're trying to make that big comeback.
We'll effort that for tomorrow since today didn't work out. But, you're down to – and hopefully you got out to Big Willie's to watch some of these games because they were running specials all weekend as they do every single day. The drink specials stay below $4. The food specials are $15 or less. And they are excellent. Even if you're trying to clean up the diet a little bit, they have those options. If you're just there for some tater tots or some tachos, which are tater tot nachos, if you're looking for the tater kegs, which we had in our hot lunches last week, I mean, they've got an incredible menu, both on the drink side and on the food side. So get down there to watch the Final Four games. Hopefully you caught Sweet 16 and maybe Elite 8 action down at Big Willie's, 1717 South Main, and always tell them you heard about the place on the Sean O'Connell Show. They'll give you a little extra special treatment. So do you have somebody, James, who's like a legend of March Madness that maybe you watch this person in whatever tournament and they never, even if they went to the NBA, because a lot of these guys, especially if you have a phenomenal tournament, you go to the NBA, but then, maybe you don't turn out to be what people thought you were going to be in the NBA. I'm talking about even guys who had respectable careers, but where March Madness was clearly the peak of their individual glory. I feel like there's a lot of those legends out there, and I feel like Mullins from UConn, like that moment, hitting that shot to take down Duke, that is going to be the thing as an athlete he is remembered for, regardless of what happens from here on out. A buzzer beater three-pointer way beyond the arc on a wild possession to cap off an incredible comeback against a blue blood like Duke. That is something that you have a hard time besides the eventual birth of his children, nothing is going to be as significant for him individually as that, probably. Do you have one of these guys, one of these gals, somebody that you were just like, that tournament is something I'll remember forever?
Well, I've got a couple, and one of them, it's not necessarily a tournament. It more is just their entire college career. It's Tyler Hansbrough.
Yeah, he was talked about this weekend, and Psycho T was and is a college basketball legend. He's not an NBA basketball legend, although he ended up having a really solid career.
He had a nice career as a role player, kind of tried to be a physical enforcer guy, didn't always play in that role. It wasn't always very convincing in that role in the NBA, but he had a nice almost 10-year career. That's nothing to feel bad about if you're Tyler Hansbrough. But he's a bona fide college basketball legend. Like as far as power forwards, you could count. You'd probably only need like 3 fingers before you get to Tyler Hansbrough as far as like greatest power forwards in college basketball history. But he didn't have that career in the NBA. So
7 years in the NBA.
7 years. Okay.
He's 40 years old now. All right, 7 years in the NBA. Wow. He spent a little bit of time in China.
So if he was LeBron, he could still be playing.
If he was LeBron, he would still be making all-star teams. But yeah, and look, I there's zero shade. This is zero disparagement. If you make it to the NBA, even for a 10-day contract, you are an incredible outlier. But we know what this is. We've seen these people in college football and college basketball where you're a legend and you're one of the best to ever do it. But then for whatever reason, at that next level, it just doesn't translate the same way. And there's a ton of them. Tyler Hansbrough is a favorite for a lot of people, I think.
The other one is Jerry McNamara, who is back at his alma mater, by the way, Syracuse. He's been hired as the Orange's next head coach. Almost had more March magic with Siena as the head coach of Siena. They got so close to upsetting Duke in the first round as a 16 seed. That guy, particularly in the Big East tournament, but he had his moments in the madness too in the NCAA tournament. But he was so fun to watch once the calendar turned to March, and excited that he's back at Syracuse as the head coach.
This one is, for me, my favorite is the most random outlier. Like, James has a lot of strange sports fandom where he's got to explain why he's I like the Red Sox, and like you got to get the story of why. This one, I can't even explain it for you, but when I think of NCAA tournament basketball, and I think of like some of the most glorious times I had watching NCAA tournament basketball, I couldn't tell you why. Mateen Cleaves. Watching him in that 2000 tournament run that ended up with a Michigan State national championship. I don't like Michigan State. I'm not a Michigan State fan. It was just the coverage that they did on him, the way he played. I guess I was a sophomore in high school. Yeah, sophomore in high school at the time, and probably just like overly influenceable, right? Malleable in my opinions, and the way that they were like telling you what an unequivocal, incredible leader he was, how everything that he did is, set the tone for Michigan State. I just fell in love for that 2-week period with the way that Mateen Cleaves did things. And then he ended up playing, 5 years in the NBA. He was like a 2 points a game kind of guy.
He was I wasn't that into college basketball at the time, so I don't have many memories of that championship run for Michigan State. But he's still, like, for a guy who didn't do much after that and wasn't, like, all-time great, no doubt about it, college basketball legend like Tyler Hansbrough, it's a guy he's still talked about because of how captivating he was in that championship run. But here's my memory of Mateen Cleaves, those great Sacramento Kings teams. He was like captain, cheerleader, bench warmer guy.
He was the towel waver.
I didn't know his name because, like I said, wasn't that into college basketball at that time. But I'm like, that guy who never plays, I love watching him support his teammates. I love watching him cheer on the bench. And then I realized, that's like a college basketball legend from a couple years ago, Mateen Cleaves.
Who also looks a little bit like Darius Rucker, so maybe he could be the lead singer of Hootie and the Blowfish if you needed him to.
He could be in the biopic of Darius Rucker.
Yeah, he averaged 3.6 per game, 3.6 points per game, and 1.9 assists per game, shooting 39% from the field as a NBA basketball player. Again, it's nothing to sneeze at, even if you're the last guy on the bench in the NBA, but he was a god for that NCAA tournament in 2000.
I mean, he still is. He probably can't walk around East Lansing. Like, he probably still is. He still is kind of a god from the TV coverage of March Madness. I'm sure he's a living legend whenever he's in East Lansing, Michigan, too.
877-353-0700 if you've got a tournament star that was the peak. And you're okay with that being the peak. Psycho T, Mateen Cleaves, Marshall Henderson, whoever you want it to be. Let me know. 877-353-0700. And I don't want, that's one thing that I hope we still protect somehow. I think it's one thing that actually is kind of immune from whatever the influences are on NIL and transfer portal and things like that, because you really can, in a 3-week span, you can solidify your legend in this way. Maybe not like, oh, he's one of the all-time great Spartans, he's one of the all-time great Bruins, he's one of the all-time great Blue Devils. But if you just have that one run, that's kind of enough. So I think NIL can't affect that too much. I think the transfer portal, while that person might end up transferring to a bigger school if they do it at like Northern Illinois, well, maybe it's one of these things in college sports that is as close to untouchable as it can be in this changing landscape. I hope. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I got another one. Hasn't done much in the NBA. Stephen Curry. Oh wait, he doesn't qualify. But that run, he came out of nowhere. That run with Davidson, and no one knew who he was, even though he was Del Curry's son, named after him. Right?
Yeah.
Like
Wardell Stephen Curry.
Like named after his dad, who was not an all-time great NBA player, but had a really long career, one of the better role players and best three-point shooters of the 90s, right? Had a cup of coffee with the Jazz even. He like that. If you're the son of that kind of player, it's like Robert Horry without the championships, right? If you're that guy's son, people ought to know who you are no matter what college you go to, even before you have a magical tournament run. But it took him leading Davidson to the Elite Eight and within a shot of the Final Four, upsetting Kansas, who ended up winning the national championship, for us to even know who he is, which is crazy to think because he is now an all-time NBA legend that changed the game. But that probably doesn't happen if he doesn't have that March run in 2008.
How would you characterize Jalen Suggs' NBA career so far?
I mean, he'd be more high profile if he didn't play in Orlando. He's been an NBA starter. He's been one of the best defensive players in the league, but we just don't know about him because he plays in Orlando, and the Magic have been a play-in team that maybe makes the playoffs. Like that's now if he were on like a Western Conference team that was in the same position, if he were on the Sacramento Kings the last few years with De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, he would stand out and be like, oh, that's a great player on a team that's up and coming. The Magic qualify as that, but Orlando just doesn't. People don't care unless they make the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
That's how it is with Orlando.
Suggs is probably the most recent example for me of a guy that I was like, man,
he was so good.
He is
Gonzaga.
A monster.
I thought he was going to be the best player of that draft class. I really did.
Same. And look, if you're an NBA starter and you're having a good career, and like, by the way, that now, if you're a multiple-year NBA starter, that translates to you earning at least like $100 million over the course of your NBA career. So good for you. You're going to, provide well for your family moving forward. That's there's no such thing as a bust as long as you stay in the NBA after being, a legend in college. But he took Gonzaga right up to that championship game.
He was the best player on the floor in every game he played.
He scored 22 points in the championship game, and unfortunately there just wasn't enough around him.
That half-court shot that he banked in that was basically like Braylon Mullins' shot from the same distance, but he had to bank it in to get them to the championship game.
Against UCLA.
Was, all-time great game with hardly anyone in the stands because that was the year after COVID, right? And we were still coming out of the pandemic. Like, that was – I think I've told this before. I've kind of been trained because of games that I've covered to not really cheer very much. Even when I'm at games as a fan, the most I do is clap, right? So I'm that way at home. I watch pretty silently now, but I can't help it when a great moment happens. I'll just spontaneously scream. That's what happened with Mullins. That's what happened with the Suggs shot a few years ago. There's been some great catches in home runs in Red Sox playoff run, recent Red Sox playoff runs that's made me do that. it gets to the point where it's late enough at night where my wife has gone to bed and I'll just like scream and she'll think like someone's coming in to murder me kind of thing. Like that.
It's not ideal.
That's what like the Suggs were camping and I have enough data to be able to watch on my phone the Suggs UCLA game, and I'm in the tent and I can't help myself. I let out this primal scream after this amazing shot, and my wife, we're with her family and they're like, "Everything okay?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I think March Madness." I'm like, yeah, and I come out, I'm like, "I'm really sorry. That was a crazy shot."
That's where madness comes from. Makes you act crazy. All right, we got Ari Temkin joining us here in just a couple of minutes after this break. We've got Tony Parks joining us in studio at 1 o'clock. Opening weekend already happening in Major League Baseball. It is opening week for the Bees as well. So Tony Parks joining us later on in the show. Let's take a quick one. We'll come back with Ari Temkin. The Big 12's got one last chance for an NCAA championship in this year's basketball world. Will Arizona do it? We'll discuss with Ari. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show on a Monday. Welcome in friend of the program, Ari Temkin at Ari Sports. Ari, welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm great, OC. How are you, bud?
Doing all right. Tell me, set the stage for me. How and where did you take in the Elite Eight action this past weekend?
Yeah, what a dynamic weekend it was, and certainly the fireworks from Saturday night were, incredible, and into Sunday. I actually was going to go watch at Cosm here locally, which I can't remember if we've talked about that yet, but Cosm is this incredible spot that basically is, if you can't be at the game, the next best place to be at. They install their own cameras in stadiums for games and just give you a very unique view. In fact, in some ways it could be better than being at the game because you get to change your view throughout the game. But wasn't able to make that work this weekend with lots going on. We had sporting events, and you know how it is with little kids. There's just a lot going on throughout the weekend. So through in the times in between, not parenting and at sports events and plays and whatnot, had an opportunity to watch these games. And I was very close, OC, for the first time ever for nailing the Final Four. I was 3 for 3 and just needed Duke to not get upset, but obviously that did not happen. So I had my Final Four was Duke, Illinois, Michigan, and Arizona, with Arizona beating Duke in the national title, and feel pretty good about Arizona still winning it all, and just a historic collapse by the Blue Devils, which you hate to see, except for those of us that love to see it.
Well, that was going to be my next question for you, because it's not like UConn is some little engine that could Cinderella that knocked off Duke. There's plenty of reasons to hate UConn also, but for some reason, the collective basketball world relishes in the fact that it happens to Duke. Even if it's UConn doing it, just like, it couldn't have happened to a better team. Duke, collapsing like this. And I understand why, right? They are the bluest of blue bloods, and there's plenty of things culturally to question about Duke and things like that. But do we have a real reason to hate them as much as we do?
Yes, of course we do. OC, come on. Look, for me personally, I grew up in Chicago, and I was a Duke fan when I was a kid. Mike Krzyzewski is from the Chicago area and really liked their teams, their players. But the moment that I went to Kansas, that went up in the air. And now I have as much hate for Duke as anybody else, as much as Kentucky or North Carolina or Duke. But I think it's just the way that Duke fans carry themselves, and this was evident to me in the 2022 Final Four. With apologies to any Duke fans listening out there that are good people, and many of them I'm sure are, but when I was in the Final Four in 2022, my Jayhawks were on the verge of winning a national championship, and they eventually did. And that was Coach K's last run. It was his victory lap, and so just the mentality of Duke fans in New Orleans was just that of like an expectation of winning in a way, and oh, you guys are all just here for our coronation kind of thing. And I've been to many Final Fours and never experienced that from other fan bases. There's usually some good-natured ribbing, and I was even in New Orleans in 2018 when Louisville and Kentucky played in the Final Four, which those are two fan bases that absolutely hate each other with a rivalry and a passion, but nothing that was just on the level of the entitlement and the condescension from Duke fans. So it is real. It is very, very much evident, and there is sort of a, almost like a birthright that Duke fans feel like they have to being in the Final Four. And Shire's a really good coach, and I'm sure eventually he's going to win a national title and get to a Final Four. And he's been to one already, but these are back-to-back collapses of epic proportions. And for me, Duke was number one in net rating, the difference from Ken Palm, the offensive rating, points scored per 100 possessions, and defensive rating, points given up per 100 possessions. Duke at one point this year was number one all time on that list. So this is an epic collapse. I'm not even going to get to the Final Four.
You already know this. Braylon Mullins only hit 1 3-pointer in this game, and it happened to be the biggest shot so far of the tournament. And he is going to be a legend in stores for the rest of his life because of it. I don't know if he'll ever achieve a height like this beyond. And so I was asking the question to our listeners. I want to extend it to you. Is there anyone that you have a particular affection for where their tournament run, whatever year it was very certainly the high point of their athletic career. Even guys who made it to the NBA but never ended up being what we thought they would be in the NBA fit this category for me. Like for me, Mateen Cleaves was that dude. I don't know why. I just loved the run that he made in 2000. We talked about Tyler Hansborough, Suggs from Gonzaga, who's having a really respectable NBA career, isn't talked about the same way in NBA circles as he was in college basketball circles. So who's your favorite tournament star?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, like there were two names that immediately came to mind. The first would be Jimmer, the Jimmer, and just how enthralled he had the entire nation. And then number two would be Mario Chalmers, for Kansas in 2008. And Chalmers did play in the pros, and I believe he won a championship with the Heat as well. But he was really kind of a joke in the NBA. In fact, like as part of that Heatles crew, they constantly like treated him like the younger brother, like the little brother. But the run he had in 2008 was epic, especially hitting that 3-point shot from the top of the key to send the game to overtime against Memphis in the national title, which capped off an incredible, comeback for Kansas. So I think in that category, just me personally, my own fandom, I think Mario Chalmers probably takes the cake. But no, I mean, there's plenty of them. I mean, just legendary players that maybe didn't reach the heights in the NBA that were expected based on the success they had in college, or some of them do. I think Suggs is a great example of a guy that had an epic run and probably hasn't been as good as we thought he would be as a top 5 pick, but there's a lot of good ones. And I mean, it's crazy too, because we've seen a few examples of teams go, especially in the Big 12, just completely ice cold in games. And Kelvin Sampson, after Houston was eliminated, basically because they went ice cold down the stretch of that game, and they just could not hit a shot. And Sampson's like, sometimes making shots is contagious, and sometimes missing shots is contagious. What's maybe most amazing about the run that UConn went on is they were 1 for 18 from 3 at one point in that game. So to think that they would close it out by hitting the amount of threes they needed to hit in order to get back in it and then win it is kind of miraculous, considering, I think Sampson's right. Sometimes making shots is absolutely contagious, but sometimes missing them is too. And, you feel like if you're 1 for 18, how can that team make enough threes in order to come back in a game? And they did. It was, I think, like the ultimate story here is not that this is like some, like you mentioned, like this is a power. This is the third Final Four now for UConn in the last 4 years. They've got a chance here to win a third championship in 4 years. It has been done since John Wooden's UCLA team. So by no means are they an upset. I just think it was the way in which it happened, and especially given, how strong of a season Duke had and how many epic, players they've had the last 2 years to not win a championship, considering they're going to have like, 3, possibly 4 top 10 picks of the last 2 years is kind of insane.
I know nobody asked for it, but because you mentioned Mario Chalmers, I was like, let's see what Mario Chalmers' pro career ended up looking like. He played He played from 2008 to 2018 in the association. Miami Heat, then Memphis Grizzlies. He did not hang it up after 2018. He went to Italy, he went to Greece, he went to Puerto Rico, he spent some time in the G League, and this is my favorite. His last professional stop was in the Philippines, playing for the Filipino 3-on-3 basketball league for the Zamboanga Valientes. Okay, so next time somebody asks you, hey, whatever happened to Mario Chalmers, you'll be able to answer, oh, yeah, he finished his career in a 3-on-3 league in the Philippines.
And I can tell you, some guys, they can't hang it up because of the love of the game, but that reads like a career of a guy that did not do a good enough job in saving his NBA checks.
Maybe I don't want to know. I don't want to say because I don't know 100%. But actually, the Zamboanga Valientes actually have a pretty cool logo. So I'm gonna have to find some gear and send it out to Ari Temkin, who's our guest here.
Did Chalmers play in the Big Three at one point too, the Ice Cube 3-on-3 league? So maybe that kind of set him up to play 3-on-3 professionally in the Philippines. I don't know. I feel like there was a point in time where he was playing with a few other members of that 2008 national championship winning Kansas team. And that's when you look, there maybe no better example of how much better the like players and the competition has gotten in college basketball than that Final Four, because it was really good from a player perspective. UCLA and North Carolina were also in it, but Memphis was basically Derrick Rose and a bunch of spares. I mean spares in terms of like guys that were not going to have prolific NBA careers, or really even NBA careers at all. I mean, Chris Douglas Roberts was a really good college player, never really did anything in the NBA. I mean, much of that team the same. And then Kansas, too, like the best player maybe from an NBA perspective that was on that roster was maybe Darrell Arthur, and he's not like a household NBA name. So now we're looking at rosters here that are, I mean, a Final Four that is flush with top 10 picks, guys that could be, decades-long starters in the NBA, and that's both from like a freshman perspective because of how good this freshman class is, but also because of Euros. So it's actually sort of interesting to see how far the sport has come since 2008 because, like, those two teams that met in the national title game were not that good in terms of, like, NBA talent.
All right, Temkin, for a couple more minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show. So, Michigan, Arizona. A lot of people feel like this is maybe the game that's going to produce the eventual national champion. Michigan has been rolling through this tournament so far. How does Arizona make sure they don't get rolled?
Well, and that is going to be the positioning here, and I don't know that I buy it because UConn, like, it's UConn. You can't kill them. They're so well coached. And, again, they're trying to win 3 national championships in 4 years, so you got to give them that credit. And Illinois is the tallest team in college basketball, and they're no fluke here. So while I do think like the story going in is the fact that Michigan and the only 2 1 seeds left, the 2 best teams, they were both plus 35 in the net rating when the tournament started. So they're the bells of the ball, if you will. But make no mistake about it, whoever wins an Illinois-UConn game will have as good of a shot to win the national title as Michigan or Arizona. To me, Arizona and Michigan are very similar teams. I just think Arizona's better, and not that that says that Michigan's not good. I mean, Michigan's been one of the best teams in college basketball all year, but so too is Arizona. I just don't think Michigan's guard play is as good or as deep as Arizona's. I mean, Cadeau is really good, but like beyond that, for Arizona, you look at what they have with Berries and with Bradley, and then if Del Orso gets going, I mean, their 3-point shooting really can take off. So, and then the biggest difference within the game here is turnovers. Michigan is not very good in terms of not turning the basketball over. And I mean, Arizona is. They don't turn the ball over, and they can turn you over because their defense is number 1 in Ken Palm. So, and we saw that. I mean, against Purdue, it was the number 1 Ken Palm defense, the number 1 Ken Palm offense. And I mean, for the second half of that game, Arizona completely silenced Ken Palm's top offense. So I think, I do think Arizona wins. I think Arizona is going to win the national championship. I mean, they're that good and they're that deep. And I mean, there's a couple of long streaks at play here, which are important for Utah. Number one, and I mean the state of Utah. Number one is, it's well documented. Arizona was the last team west of Texas to win a national championship in college basketball. There's been a huge, drought for teams, basically west of the state of Texas. And really what we're talking about here is west of the school for Baylor, which they did in 2021. Beyond that, Arizona last won in 97. So obviously that's great for the state of Utah if Arizona can break through and end that streak. The other one is, you mentioned this, the Mateen Cleaves Michigan State team. Do you realize that's the last Big Ten team to win a national championship?
I did not realize that.
In 2000, the Big Ten has not won a national title since Mateen Cleaves and Tom Izzo and that Michigan State team did it in 2000. They've got 2 teams, obviously, in the Final Four with Illinois and Michigan. So somewhere along the way, unless UConn wins it, a long streak is going to end this year.
Wow. Bill Self, controlling the narrative right now about rumors around retirement and things like that. As a Kansas guy who also spends a lot of time here in the Pac-12, what do you make of this? What are you hearing that we're not hearing?
A week ago, and I think when I was on with you a week ago, I probably mentioned that I would put it on a greater likelihood that Self is done. And I feel like a week later, a lot has changed. The number one thing that stands out to me more than anything is the recruiting class. I mean, Kansas right now has a top 5 recruiting class, and that doesn't even take into account the number 1 player in the nation who is very much firmly leaning towards Kansas, which is Tyron Stokes. So last year, Kansas was 17th in the recruiting rankings, even with Jared Peterson. So, like, the fact that they are recruiting at this high level and the fact that Stokes hasn't yet decided but seems to be leaning Kansas says that Bill Self is not going anywhere, especially for this season. So, while we haven't heard from him and it feels like we've been waiting for something, I think the news centers on the commitments they've gotten. And if we do find out, because it feels like Stokes is closer and closer to making his commitment, that he does commit to Kansas, then that will tell us all we need to know. Bill Self isn't going to bring in the number one recruiting class in the nation and then retire. I think he would look at it as a way to go out potentially with his, best foot forward. And, we'll see. I mean, look, from this is a guy that was at one point the best coach in the game, won 2 national titles, 4 Final Fours, but they haven't gotten on the first weekend since winning the title in 2022. And I think some of that is, not just player, but I mean, they've been in the 50s or mid 50s in offensive efficiency since 2022. And it's not good enough to have that bad of an offense in modern college basketball. And, you could chalk it up before to maybe Hunter Dickinson and some of the older players that have been around that weren't as good offensively that bogged them down. But even this year, it's like the ball stuck too much. It wasn't good enough. Maybe, again, it was Darren Peterson, a lack of cohesion. But whatever it is, it's got to be fixed for Self to have a better run, a longer run, and get out of the first weekend, because it's not just about personnel. It's also about, the X's and O's and how they can become a better, more consistent offense. Their defense hasn't really taken much of a step back, and as we're seeing, you need to have an elite defense, but you also can't be mid-50s or 60s in offense trying to make a deep run in this postseason.
It's probably triggering me because of the whole Kyle Whittingham saga that really, if we look at it, stretched for 3 or 4 years, where it's like every season started with the question, hey, is this going to be the last one? So even if let's say Bill Self does secure himself the recruiting class that Jayhawks fans are hoping for, then the next question becomes, oh, wow, awesome. You're right. He's not going to retire now. Then the question is, wait, what is he going to retire after this season? And if he doesn't, it's going to be, is he going to retire after this season? How do you handle that if you're Kansas?
I mean, it's a great point, and I think there is like a Whittinghamness to it from the standpoint of if you were to push Self out the door, there's a pretty high likelihood that he coaches again if he still wanted to. And so there's your Whittingham situation where you thought that this guy was going to retire as the head coach of your team, and now he leaves and has his cake and eats it too, so to speak. So, but I don't think, number one, there's no coach in waiting. People have thought about Jacques Vaughn, who's a legendary Kansas Jayhawk and is the head assistant now on staff for the first year this year. There's been nothing formal said about that. And I'd be shocked if they just handed him the keys. But it also sort of looks at like, okay, does Self want to put Jacques Vaughn in a position to kind of succeed him? And, would next year be a great transitional period regardless of the outcome of the season? I get 100% the comparison there to Whittingham, and I think there are a few ways that this could go down that would be very parallel to the Whittingham situation. So, and that I think just makes for the theater of college sports and college athletics, and it's really hard to stay at the top forever. And there's multiple ways to do it, but I think whether it's keeping the same coach and that same coach is going to be epic and amazing forever, or getting rid of that great coach when he's at his heights of his power and bring in another coach, not letting that coach leave because they can become a great coach somewhere else. Like, these are all things at play that I know are at play for Utah and are going to be at play for Kansas too. So it is really interesting. And the coaching dynamic, when to step down, when to push out, and when you've got a guy on staff that you don't want to lose, placating to them enough to where you give them enough of a runway so they don't leave and go be great elsewhere, but just balancing the legendary status. Obviously, the difference there between Self and Whittingham is Whittingham won conference titles, Self won national titles, and so there's probably a little bit more grace for a coach doing that. If Whittingham had won multiple national championships at Utah, I don't think we would have had this situation.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But who knows? Before I let you go, you have to choose one. Is there a spring football storyline or narrative in the Big 12 that is intriguing you most?
Oh, man. Well, so I'll keep it local because these are two that are top of mind. I think when you look at the top 2-3 teams in this conference heading into the season, they're very much as BYU and Utah. Utah is super interesting because of the turnover in their roster, and yet despite that, it feels like they're really set up for success based on the quarterback and running back positions. The biggest question, obviously, is to make sure that offensive line doesn't take a huge step back because of all the players they're losing. But, I mean, I look at this running offense and think, with the guys they've got back with Devin Dampier, this should be a explosive rush offense. And as we know, he who has the best rushing offense, the Big 12, most likely will win the Big 12. And so I think Utah is certainly front and center for that conversation. And then, the subplot to the Utah storyline obviously is the coaches they've lost, the players they've lost, who they've gained, all that stuff. And then BYU is just crazy because all of the year-over-year numbers that you look at that would show regression, injury luck, close game luck, and turnovers, those are things that would tell you that BYU is due for a really bad year this year. But the same is true last year. So, but they don't have the same defensive coordinator. Obviously, he left with Whittingham to go to Michigan. So does that change the dynamics from a turnover perspective? But they've been really, quote unquote, lucky in turnovers the last couple of seasons. And usually that tends to change year over year, but they were really good again last year, despite being really, really good 2 years ago in those. So for me, that's really intriguing because BYU, if they once again check all three of those boxes, it would be kind of an anomaly because, again, those things tend to even out year over year: injury luck, winning and losing close games, and turnovers. And those were three areas that BYU excelled at the last 2 years.
Ari, it's always great catching up with you. Enjoy the rest of this March Madness, and we'll talk again next week.
Take care, brother. Great talking as always. Be well.
Ari Temkin, I mean, it is hard to find anyone better in the sports media world than him when it comes to the versatility, the knowledge base on football, basketball. I could ask him Big 12 softball questions if we wanted to. He's a huge asset for us in the Big 12 Conference and obviously here in Salt Lake City. Quick break. The hot lunch coming next. And we got to talk about one of the all-time greats in the sports world, in any capacity. True legend, having once again his name in the headlines for the wrong reasons. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Hot lunch here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Hopefully you checked out Big Willie's for the hot lunch last week. If you had a week's worth of Big Willie's and you want to mix it up a little bit, try Burger Fusion at Trolley Square. We're going to get to the Tiger Woods conversation because, unfortunately, sadly, it's once again a major headline. I want to give that enough space and enough time. And I will do my best to not try to send people scrambling to social media because I think that you can get sucked in the doom scroll, and I'd rather have people experience their lives and live and, keep your eyes off your phone as much as you can. But it is worth taking some time to find the video of Dan Hurley going forehead to forehead with a referee after that buzzer beater shot went in for UConn as they're pulling off this huge comeback upset over Duke. The Hurley family is absolutely unhinged, all right? We saw plenty of it when they were players. We saw Bobby Hurley in the Pac-12 conference and then the Big 12 conference. Dan Hurley, the dad was a coach. The mom, they zoomed in on the mom, her reaction to the buzzer beater three-pointer going in. Holy bleep and bleep. You could easily mouth read like this 85-year-old woman just cursing like a sailor because of the shock and awe. But one of the most bizarre things that you will find from that Elite Eight, send your team to the Final Four scenario is Hurley, during his celebration, the referee comes up to him, and they must have some kind of personal relationship. Because he doesn't say anything, but he kind of there's like an intensity to the moment, and he goes forehead to forehead with the referee. I wish there was a better video element to our show so we could illustrate what was going on here. I don't know how it – I'm glad there was not a foul call. I'm glad he didn't get teched up and have that change the outcome of the game or whatever. I need to know more about the relationship he has with that referee. Because in every other scenario, a coach makes physical contact with the referee, chest to chest, forehead to forehead. It was like a baseball umpire encounter, and the ref just walked off. And I don't think he was being mad at the referee, obviously, because there's no reason to be mad in that situation. But it was such an odd choice for the head coach of a team that is seconds away from winning a game to make. It was very weird. If you haven't seen it, go find it. It's up. You find it on Twitter. You can find it on any of these sports websites. I have a hard time explaining other than these guys must be kind of low-key friends outside, and the referee was kind of coming up to be like, wow, I can't believe that happened. And he was kind of like, yeah, what's up? So intense. I mean, it's a light headbutt. Strange. Very, very, very strange. So that was my hot lunch for you, okay? We're going to take a break here. When we come back, and I put this question out on Twitter, and I think that, people are trying to index towards positivity right now. I think people want to be a little bit more on the happy side of things, which makes sense to me because very little response to the question, is there a professional athlete, a whatever athlete, is there a downfall in sports that has been hardest for you to watch? Somebody just not figuring it out. Maybe it's in pop culture. Maybe there's a celebrity you're a huge fan of. 877-353-0700. Tiger Woods arrested for DUI again. He's got issues. Rolled over crash again. How can you save Tiger Woods? We'll get to it on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, full disclosure here on the Sean O'Connell Show. I am probably the last person who should be talking about Tiger Woods, but for some reason, every time there's a Tiger Woods headline, I feel like I have to talk about Tiger Woods. I feel like it is one of those things that as a sports broadcaster, you have to have an opinion about Tiger Woods. You have to have some kind of take on what's going on whenever Tiger Woods is winning, staging a comeback, having surgery, obviously the scandal, all that stuff. The reason I feel like I'm the last person who should be doing it is because even when it, like Tiger's glorious highest peak, okay, I was watching Tiger with no more than casual curiosity. The whole thing did not appeal to me, does not appeal to me in the same way it does everyone else. Now, I find Tiger Woods fascinating from that peak era because of his intimidation factor in a sport where I don't think intimidation should be a thing. I find him fascinating because he was such a dominant champion, and any dominant champion in any sport, in any competition, deserves your attention in that regard. But I was not ever caught up in the Tiger Woods hype. I was on the air. I remember so distinctly. It was my first year on the air, my first job in full-time sports talk radio. I was doing the Hans and OC show with Hans Olsen, and the Tiger Woods, the car accident, the golf club with the wife, the cheating scandal, all that stuff broke. And I remember being like, geez, this is like kind of not even our business. But, of course it is because, you know, most of you out there listening were wearing Tiger Woods Nike golf gear at the time. So there was this reaction, and there's always been a reaction to everything Tiger does, good, bad, indifferent. There's always been this reaction. We're in a stage of life now where 50-year-old Tiger Woods has given us plenty of evidence over the years that this man has very serious addiction problems, and we treat him a little bit differently than we do other addicts because he's a billionaire, because we saw him at his incredible peak, because he was always placed on this pedestal that is, I mean, among the rarest of rarities in all sports. If you're doing a Mount Rushmore of just like mega stars in sports, not doing a basketball Mount Rushmore, or a football Mount Rushmore, or a golf Mount Rushmore, if you're just like, hey, who are the biggest sports stars that you've ever paid attention to, that you have seen in your years as a fan, right? Well, you're probably putting LeBron on there. You're probably putting Tom Brady on there if you're a football guy. You're probably putting Michael Jordan on there alongside LeBron potentially if you're in my age group. And Tiger Woods, for most people, is at least in that conversation, at least belongs there. Tiger Woods was a cultural phenomenon. Well, Tiger Woods got another DUI arrest, another rollover crash. The last time he got in a crash and was found with his car running, the charge was pled down to reckless driving or whatever. This is a man with a very serious problem. And it's one of those very serious problems that as just a human, but certainly as a sports fan, you have the hardest time figuring out why it can't be solved. You can find any number of articles right now talking about Tiger Woods, the control freak. That's why he doesn't accept help from anyone. Tiger Woods, the alpha. That's why you can't tell him what to do. You can't get him into rehab. You can't get him to do this. You can't get him to do that. Tiger Woods is too private now. He's had his privacy invaded since he was a young kid, so now he wants to be so private that he refuses to hire a driver. He won't let somebody close enough to him in his circle, in his life enough to be there to prevent these types of incidents. And we've done it with NFL athletes. We've done it with NBA athletes, Major League Baseball players. When guys have these alcohol problems, they have multiple DUIs, they have issues with DUIs, we do the thing. I mean, we do the thing I'm doing right now. How come you can't figure it out? It's the easiest thing in the world. You can afford it. In the NFL, there's absolutely no excuse for you to ever drive drunk because they will send a car service to pick you up wherever you are, whenever you are. There's a hotline number that every NFL player has access to, every NFL coach has access to prevent exactly this. That multi-billion-dollar industry has acknowledged that it is a major perception problem for them, and they have put things in place that, again, are only useful if people use them. And the same is true for Tiger Woods. You have all the money in the world. That is not an issue for you. All right? It doesn't seem like it's an issue for Tiger Woods that people don't care about him. He's got grown children right now. He's got a girlfriend that apparently, if you believe the tabloids, is very, very upset about this and is issuing ultimatums. Did you know that Tiger Woods, most of you probably know this, do you know that Tiger Woods is not allowed to drive certain people around because of the Secret Service? He is dating Donald Trump Jr.'s ex-wife. So the president of the United States' grandkids are sometimes hanging out with Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is not allowed to drive when those kids are with him. Did you know that? The Secret Service, obviously under their purview, is the president, the vice president, former presidents, family members of former presidents, and they identified early in the process that could be an issue with Tiger Woods. So Tiger Woods is apparently not allowed to drive Vanessa Trump's children, his girlfriend's children, around. I'm stating that more as just like a curiosity. It's not some like breaking news revelation, but this is a guy who has been for somebody called into the Dan Patrick Show today and was on the verge of tears talking about how much Tiger Woods means to him. Not because he has met Tiger Woods, not because he was mentored by Tiger Woods, but because Tiger Woods was a reason he became a fan of golf. And by becoming a fan of golf, this man who called into the Dan Patrick Show was able to get closer to his dad, who was a big golf fan. And then suddenly they had their thing that they shared, and they golfed together, and they watched golf together, and all that stuff. And he attributes Tiger Woods for the... So Tiger Woods is a guy that people care about, not just on the, oh, you're a celebrity, so we care about you level. He has people in his life. And not everyone does. I mean, we've seen some of these individuals, they burn bridges so aggressively that eventually it's like, man, who is going to save Lamar Odom? Who is going to save Antonio Brown? Who is going to be there for these individuals? Tiger Woods is the hardest of all of them for me to explain because you don't expect it from this demographic of society. Like the country club set, very literally, is Tiger Woods' world. And you don't hear about it, think about it, worry about it as often with that. It's not like he doesn't have the traditional story of the lack of mentorship, the troubled upbringing. If anything, it was like the opposite way, right? It was too much time with an example that maybe ended up being problematic for him. There's nothing here for me. I'm not going to give you some revelation of like, this is how Tiger Woods can be fixed. This is how Tiger Woods can be saved. In the NFL or the NBA, there are league processes that happen with this. In golf, especially with where Tiger is at right now as a golfer, the PGA doesn't have to do anything to help him. His competitors, it's just a very odd spot. And it's a tragic and terrible thing to see somebody who has every opportunity that everyone wishes they had, at least on paper, continuing to be a risk to himself and to others by getting behind the wheel while impaired and can't figure out when to say when alcohol's involved. And we know that he has a history of not being able to say when other things were involved, and maybe this addiction has replaced that addiction, and he thinks this addiction is less harmful to his family or to his children or to whatever, and so he doesn't feel like he needs as much help. But, I mean, DUIs, this is a rollover crash. What? I'm assuming he was at least buckled in. If he's not, we all saw the mugshot. If he's not completely messed up injury-wise and in serious condition in a rollover crash, it's probably because at least he has the foresight, or while he's drunk, he has the ability to say, I better buckle my seatbelt. But this is one. It's an unforgivable mistake for someone in any position to make, but especially someone in his position to make. And he's made it several times now.
Yeah, just real quick, alcohol, it's a DUI, not alcohol related. It's he blew the breathalyzer, came back 0. It's probably, the speculation is that it was probably painkillers or something, but same effect, right? And I will say it's kind of reckless speculation right now. What he was impaired with, we're all assuming. I heard Dan Patrick and a lot of other people assuming that it's painkillers because of the amount of surgeries he's had, but we don't know anything like that yet.
And he did say in the last one that the last DUI that he got, that it was an unanticipated reaction to a prescription medication. So
I think he said bad mix of painkillers or something when he fell asleep at the wheel when he messed up his leg. The last crash that he had.
Was 2021, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So
that's he almost lost his leg.
Yeah, he almost lost his life. And a second time he's walked away from what for a lot of people, that's a life-ending car accident, right? I'll say this. I have sympathy for if he has gotten addicted to painkillers because of the amount of surgeries he's had, and most recently his really bad leg injury from the last crash, that if that's made it even worse, I have sympathy for that. But in general, I don't have much sympathy for Tiger Woods. Like, the guy has made bad decision over bad decision for going on 20 years now, and life is catching up to him. And I'm not saying he deserves that, but I'm saying that there are consequences to bad decisions. And unfortunately, he's seeing some really bad consequences. And these have nothing to do with him. I'm not saying there's any kind of karmic magic going on here because he cheated on his wife with so many people. Completely separate situations. But, like, he has been in a bad way, ethically, morally, however you want to call it, for a long time, and the bill is coming due, unfortunately for him, and that does not take away this disease of addiction. And I hope he gets help. It does not mean that he should be an addict.
Let me ask you this.
I just don't have much sympathy for him.
You're right. It's an important distinction when we're talking about alcohol versus painkillers or whatever. Is it fair to assume that this is somebody with an addiction problem, given that there's a repeated pattern here where, I mean, like, if you're under the influence of whatever and you roll your car once, people are going to be like, oh, what's going on with that guy? If it happens multiple times, even if they're 4 or 5 years apart, I'm sitting here making a lot of assumptions, and I think a lot of people are going to. They're like, that seems like it's probably a pretty continuous issue. Is that fair? Because right now, I'm with you. Right now, my mental set when it comes to Tiger Woods is like, if something like this is happening, if he's involved in something like this, I'm like, yeah, man, like, I don't know what goes on month to month, year to year, even in Tiger's life necessarily. But when I see him in the headlines for this type of reason, my assumption is like, yeah, this has been an ongoing thing since the last time we heard about him. rather than a relapse situation or something like that. And maybe that's unfair, but I think your point is feeding what I'm trying to say, that like you don't give the benefit of the doubt anymore because we've seen some issue like this for, like you said, going on 2 decades.
Yeah, and it started with the cheating, and now in however long it's been, it seems like he is unfortunately fallen into an addiction of painkillers or some other substance, right? And maybe even alcohol too. We don't know, but the just make it clear this was not alcohol related impairment in this case. Yeah, it's tough because you have to have we need to take addiction seriously, no matter who it is. People who are addicted and haven't gotten proper help for it can't make the right decisions most of the time, right? When it comes to what they're addicted to. And that's clearly something that Tiger Woods, at least we're assuming, is something that Tiger Woods is experiencing. And so I got some sympathy for that, but also at the same time of all that, there still needs to be some level of responsibility taken. If it can't be taken by him, by someone in his inner circle. And if the tabloid rumors are true that his girlfriend is trying to help him, trying to hold him, prompt him to take responsibility, and she is in that way trying to take responsibility, then great. But as much as we need to have sympathy and we need to be sensitive to people who have addictions, no matter who it is, like, you also need to make sure that those people are not in a position where they're hurting other people. And I think that Tiger Woods deserves some criticism for that. And there's some sympathy that doesn't necessarily need to be given him because of that.
Well, I read an article. Tiger Woods doesn't have a driver because he values his privacy too much. And my reaction to that is like, okay, well, your privacy doesn't matter as much as you being on the road impaired. It just doesn't, right? If the reason is, well, privacy, okay, well, then Uber. Well, I don't want to take an Uber. Live somewhere where they have Waymo and the robot is driving you around. I don't know. But, yeah, and I find myself, I have a hard time because I think my natural mindset on things like this, because I have not struggled with this particular vice in life, I have not had to deal with the kind of things that, like, people who find themselves hooked on drugs or hooked on alcohol. I'm lucky enough, knock on wood, that has not been my cross to bear. I haven't had to fight that battle. So I find myself, when I see it with other people, maybe like forcing myself, no, you don't understand this. Be kind about this. And maybe being excessively permissive or excessively forgiving, which you have no business being when someone is driving a multiple 1,000-pound machine around without the ability to control it. Like, it is incredibly dangerous. We all know stories, have stories, whatever. And this is not just like, I know that all people are people and everyone's life has value and all that. What I'm saying, this is an individual who, if I get arrested and you see my mugshot, nobody is calling Dan Patrick's show and saying he's a stranger to me, but he's the reason I have this relationship with my dad. Or
Come
whatever.
on, maybe there's some guys on the verge of tears because of your fight career. I don't know.
I don't think so, right? Like, he is one of the most influential athletes of our lifetime. And far too often, unfortunately, we have seen these influential personalities, these big-time athletes, like Mike Tyson. If you're a little older than me, Mike Tyson was one of these guys in your sports fandom probably, and we saw the tragic, horrible tales of Mike Tyson's downfall. That was really, really hard for people to watch. To go back to the question I asked on Twitter, what has been the hardest downfall for athletes for you to watch? Someone came with Lance Armstrong. Tiger Woods is probably up there for a lot of people. Or maybe I'm making assumptions again. Let's see. Derek on the text line. Tiger used to be the biggest player in a sport. The only headlines he has had the past years have all been bad. How many chances does the guy get before outside parties take control of things? What outside party can take control, though, is the question. Because, like,
some level, he still has to allow it.
Exactly. He's already, like, he doesn't have to golf again ever. Like, is the PGA going to say, Tiger, we don't want you at the Masters. We're suspending you from the Masters. How much does that really affect Tiger Woods? He's like, cool, I already won. I mean, when the first scandal happened with Tiger Woods, he lost endorsement, right? He got dropped by a bunch of companies. And he was like, okay, well, that sucks. These 4 stayed with me. I mean, this is one of the things that makes it so difficult. And if you know people in your life that have had freakish levels of success in whatever their field is, right? It's harder to influence those people. It's harder to tell those people what to do. It just is. It's harder to control people who are examples of great success in whatever their field is. You can't tell them anything. They don't listen, right? Tiger Woods, I don't know him. I've never even talked to him. I never had a chance to interview him. My guess is when somebody tells Tiger Woods, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this, his natural reaction is probably just like, shut up, you peasant. You know? Like, your point is well made.
And I think that's what I've been trying to get across, is that at some point, whether it's he himself or someone or the people around him do need to take control. But that's way easier said than done, to your point, OC.
This coming in from 0279, the outside party in this case would be the justice system. At some point, his driver's license should be suspended or revoked. I don't disagree. Force him to hire a driver. Make him hire a driver. Here's the thing, though. This is like, no, I won't use that example because it's too complicated. It's too hot button for people. But, like, I know people who have had suspended licenses. I know people who've had suspended license for DUI. Guess what? They still drive. They just drive without a license. Like, if Tiger Woods drives without a driver's license, you think the cop that pulls him over is even going to be like, oh, man, I got to impound this car? He's going to be like, Tiger, I'm going to let you off with a warning, as long as he's not impaired, right?
Yeah, if he doesn't get in another accident like this, if it's just he was speeding and then he finds out he's driving without a license, nothing's happening.
The cop is probably just going to be like, for the books, I have to write you this expensive ticket, and now I'm going to take a selfie with you. Like, I don't disagree with any of what any of you on the text line are saying. This man is he is an outlier. He is sports royalty. And he is right now dealing with, I think, some very necessary fallout from, the bad decisions that he has made. But we started this, like James, to your point, we started this 2 decades ago, and Tiger Woods is still Tiger Woods for most people. But Mike Tyson is still Mike Tyson for most people. Do you know how insane the Mike Tyson stories got and how serious Mike Tyson's offenses have been in his past? And how many people are still just like, yo, he's the greatest boxer I ever saw. So we're dealing with, if Tiger Woods was named James Peterson or Sean O'Connell, everyone would be like, get rid of the guy. We've seen it too many times now. He's done. Don't show me him again. Put him in jail, whatever. But he's Tiger Woods. So people are like, oh. And I find myself doing it too. Like, how do we fix this for Tiger? How do we help Tiger? How do we save Tiger? How do we save everyone else from Tiger if this is Tiger is a better question. And by the way, if you're golf, you should. You're not in charge of Tiger Woods, but if you're the PGA, if you're Nike, if you're anyone, you should be taking control of this situation as much as you can. Golf was not talked about on nearly the same level before Tiger Woods, and would not be talked about on nearly the same level without Tiger Woods. So if you're doing the right thing, if you're doing right by the people that have been involved in your sport, the right thing for you to do is to identify whoever Tiger listens to most on that PGA Tour, whether it's someone behind the scenes or it's another professional golfer or whatever. Like, there's got to be someone who is the most respected in that world by Tiger, who Tiger will listen to better than he would listen to anyone else. And you have that person show up at Tiger's house and you say, Tiger, where's the pills? Where's the alcohol? Where's the whatever? Let's get you into rehab. Let's get you into a treatment program. Let's get you into something. Give me your car keys. Let's not have you drive for a while. Here's a link. All you have to do is click on that and an Uber shows up every single time you need to go somewhere. And I don't give a bleep about your privacy because right now you're a threat to yourself and others with this behind the wheel stuff.
When you can tip the driver well enough to make him, to really incentivize him not to paying attention to anything you're doing in the back of the car there while they're driving you around. Like, if the privacy thing just feels like a really bad excuse, because these drivers, particularly these professional chauffeurs, they're paid not to care. I'm just driving you around. I don't know. I think absolutely the right thing that you bring up. Hopefully that's an option someone in golf or somewhere else can get through to him.
Like, are you telling me that whoever his liaison at Nike was for 3 decades and Tiger don't have some kind of relationship that they can show up and just be like, dude, what are you doing?
The Nico Harrison of Nike golf, right? Nico Harrison was that for basketball. There's someone, a Nico Harrison type for Nike's golf line that he's probably has listened to and taken his advice for now 30 years.
Anyway. All right, we've got a fun daily dump coming up next. After that, we've got some good sound from you from March Madness. We still have Tony Parks joining us at 1 o'clock. We're halfway through on a Monday. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Plumbing, heating, and air conditioning. They handle it all now at Valley Plumbing. When you see the truck with the duck, flag them down, make an appointment, tell them OC sent you. Go to valleyplumbing.com. You can make an appointment right there online. You don't even have to get on the phone. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All right. It is with much skepticism and some mild chagrin that I give you this report. The San Francisco 49ers have completed an investigation into the rumored link between the electrical substation next to their practice facility and excessive soft tissue injuries on the team. There were some scientists, I use the term loosely, that had suggested that the kind of levels of electromagnetic radiation, obviously very different from like nuclear radiation, but that electromagnetic radiation at the levels common on their practice fields was damaging the soft tissues, the ligaments, the tendons, the fascia of their players, and contributing to the rash of injuries that, let's be honest, have really devastated a 49ers franchise that the roster from a talent standpoint is and was capable of competing for more Super Bowl championships than they got, because, of course, that one is a big fat zero. So the Niners, after all the scuttlebutt, were like, okay, we're going to do an investigation into this. And guess what? It came back nothing. It came back, John Lynch called it a big old nothing burger. Dismissed the claim, says there's no science to support this. Low-frequency EMF waves, according to the 49ers investigation, do not actually contribute to the kind of injuries that have been devastating the team as of late. So, is that close the book? Done deal? Don't worry about it? Well, probably not, because players are still going to talk about it. And more importantly, people are going to be, you have to do a third-party investigation. You have to have somebody that is not paid by the 49ers doing this investigation. Of course, the internal investigation of the San Francisco 49ers is like, yeah, of course there's not a problem here. So I applaud their efforts to try to figure out if this was actually something they needed to address. But I also wonder why they didn't go about it in a more nuanced and careful manner to make sure that the hardest of hardcore conspiracy theorists don't continue to question. But for the Niners and their personnel department and the ownership that thought about, at least very briefly, potentially moving a practice facility, this is a big old nothing burger. The EMF waves are not to be blamed. The Las Vegas Golden Knights have fired their coach and hired John Tortorella. Bruce Cassidy is out. They've only got 8 games left on the season. So, the NHL coaching carousel starts its spin, and the Knights, they've had a disappointing season. Injuries have really devastated what they thought they were going to be able to do this year. They are right now 3rd in the Pacific Division in the West. Let's see where they are. They are 1 spot behind the Utah Mammoth in that Western Conference standing. So they're not out of the playoffs by any stretch of the imagination. They are not even out of the wild card picture, but 8 games left in the regular season, and the Las Vegas Knights have separated Bruce Cassidy, their head coach, from his duties. We don't have as much history or experience talking about NHL coaching carousel spins, but something we might have to get used to as we get a little bit more dialed in on NHL hockey. Also, I got the email for the tickets, the playoff tickets.
Oh,
because if you're a season ticket holder, you can opt in to.
Have they officially clinched, or they're all but clinched?
it's like a 95% chance they're going to make the playoffs, right?
Okay.
So only 2 teams have clinched in the West, if I'm not mistaken. But they sent the email out, and obviously it's, hey, do you want your tickets if the team goes? How much more should a ticket cost? Like if we're throwing a percentage on it, James, how much more should a playoff ticket cost than a regular season ticket cost?
What's the per game on your regular season?
Like, let's say that's $200 per game per seat on the regular season ticket. Lower bowl, good ticket, not club level. You're not getting the fancy Toyota Club stuff, but you're just, you're in a good seat that with the redesign is an unobstructed view completely.
Yeah.
Let's say I'll give you a $200 price tag on your regular season ticket. What would you pay, or what should you pay for the playoffs?
I think my limit would probably be under 400 a game, but I'm thinking that it probably is higher than that.
No, it's not.
Oh.
So you're willing to, like,
300 to 400?
You're almost ready to double up for the playoffs.
I mean, yeah, kind of for that. Like, we're not talking about upper bowl season tickets, which I'm not sure that they're doing that because it's not quite completely unobstructed. But we're not talking about the cheapest season tickets in the building. We're not talking about the most expensive either. But it's still lower bowl season tickets. I kind of expect to be cost a pretty penny for both the regular season, and I expect it to be much higher for playoff games.
I will say this: I'm sure it's this way for all seats, but at where our tickets are, our price point, if the Mammoth made it to the Stanley Cup playoffs, right? If they made it through all 4 rounds and you make it into the Stanley Cup playoffs, the cost of the playoff tickets is more expensive than the entire season of tickets in this package.
Wow. See, when you put it that way, it's like, is really, guys? But also, it's the rational part of my brain, the one that's followed sports all the time, or for his whole life, tells me, yeah, you kind of should expect something like that especially in the playoffs when they make, maybe more than any other sport, they make the playoffs like 1,000 times bigger than the regular season. So you kind of, I don't know, kind of expect it to be something like that.
So it's
unfortunately,
it's about, like, you're adding about 40% per game to the ticket cost for round 1. 45%. You're adding, so round 1, 45% increase. Round 2, 75% increase in the price. Round 3, the Western Conference Finals in this case. Round 3 is more than double, so like about 115% price increase. And then if the Utah Mammoth make it to the Stanley Cup Final, your tickets are 4 times as much per seat.
That's nuts when you put it that way.
Yes, but also
it's the Stanley Cup Final.
It's the Stanley Cup Final.
I mean,
this is where, if you're a sports owner, right? You're like, okay, well, I want to reward my season ticket holders. I want to reward our fan base. I want to make it as accessible as possible, but it's the Stanley Cup Finals here.
And it's a business. Do you know how much money I could make just off of tickets?
I mean, you're paying almost, at our level, you're paying over $900 per seat for the Stanley Cup Finals. And it's not close to that for the regular season. So
I know we're going to get to the March Madness sound. We can talk about this a little bit more next segment. But I will say, I do think Dan Hurley is the luckiest man alive not to get a technical foul there.
Okay.
He probably should have gotten teed up there. And while a big part of me is like, I'm glad that that's not overshadowing what is otherwise an incredible outcome, an incredible ending to a game. the other part of me is like, man, how can a ref allow him to do that? But it speaks to what you were saying. Maybe they've got some kind of relationship where that doesn't bother this ref.
I have watched this video no less than 100 times trying to figure out, like, because you're kind of looking at the angle, at least I've seen, you're kind of looking at the back of the referee more. Like, does he have kind of a half smile on his face?
You don't see the ref's face. Yeah.
Is there some kind of, like, eyebrow raise going on? Is there something that would...
Is he saying anything to him?
Yeah,
we don't even know if the ref said anything to him.
Not that would invite this, but that is, like, make it more acceptable, make it more reasonable. He just... but it looks like the referee's going to the scorer's table, like you said. Anyway, it's wild.
Because for everyone that might have forgotten, which tends to happen when we have this great highlight, we forget about the big break in action that sometimes happens when you got to go to the replay or whatever. There was like 10 minutes where the refs they went to the replay to figure out if they needed to add more time. So that ref was probably just on his way to the scorer's table to begin that process, right? But it's just, we'll talk about it a little bit more next segment, but I didn't have a chance to talk about it when you were talking about the hot lunch. That I did not know till this morning, because I wasn't on social media. I didn't know till this morning that happened, right? And the CBS broadcast did not show that. I spent like 20 minutes trying to find a different angle to make sure that it wasn't fake, right?
Does this AI?
To find another angle to see, and it took me forever to find one that showed, oh yeah, that's him walking up to the ref and putting his forehead on the ref's forehead in a crazy stare down.
Like, the more I look at it, and again, I'm watching just on a loop here. I just retweeted it for the people who haven't seen it. The more I look at it, the more I think about it. Like, this is an attempt to be like, bleep you, ref.
That's what it seemed like when I first saw it, which made me go, I know he's insane, but he can't be that insane to almost cost his team a chance at another Final Four, can he?
Imagine, right, what the conversation would be today, including on this show, if the ref techs him up. Now the ref becomes the bad guy. Now the ref is like, now the conversation, the basketball fan base has to decide, well, do you swallow your whistle in a situation like this where a guy is just like, it's a coach, though. If a player was doing it, I'd be like, oh, come on, it's a player. If the coach doing it, it's wild to me. Anyway, this is part of the sound that we have for March Madness, okay?
I have an idea for what we might want to call this.
Okay.
So let me run it by you.
James and I, we've formulated a plan because we've got, football season coming. You've got playoff basketball. You've got playoff hockey.
Baseball just started.
You got baseball. Playoff hockey playoff baseball is coming in several months. And we're going to have, I want to bring more sound from the local national radio sound is great, is fine, but there's nothing like Homer radio.
And Iron Eagle's call was incredible. He and Bill Raftery were gold on the TV, but you're right. It's even better, the Homer call. What about Tale of Two Calls?
I like it.
Yeah. You're a literature guy.
Yeah.
You're a well-read fellow.
A Tale of Two Cities. Tale of Two radio calls from two cities. Anyway, we're going to give you the home call and the away call from the buzzer beater, the UConn buzzer beater over Duke. You're going to want to hear these. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
72-70, 10 seconds to go. Sarr will try to inbound to our right. He runs the baseline. He gets it into Cameron Boozer. They double him. Back to Sarr. Now ahead to Caden Boozer. And a steal. Mullins gets it. It's Caravan to Mullins. Long-range three. Oh! It went in! Mullins delivers. Bedlam. Bedlam here. They're going to go to the...
Okay, so that's the UConn call. Remember, this is a UConn Huskies team battling back from 19 down. The first time in NCAA history that a number 1 seed up by at least 15 at the half has lost. This is truly unprecedented. That was the hometown call. That was UConn radio. And sounds like his voice was belabored a bit. The surprise there. Oh, it went in. Like, clearly he did not expect the Mullins shot to go in. He had taken 4 threes to that point, and they had all missed. That was the only one that went in. So we've got that. All right, that is the UConn call. The Duke call, especially if you're a Duke hater, like, I don't know, 99% of the country seems to be, probably feels even better to listen to. Here's the Duke radio call.
Get it in. They do for Boozer. Bobbled it. Back for Sarr. Needs to get rid of it. Does for Caden. 7 seconds. Trying to throw it ahead. Deflected. Stolen by Connecticut. 2 seconds. It's Mullins up top for the win. Oh, he hit it. With 3/10 of a second to go. Malachi Smith ran off the bench. That should be a technical. But with 3/10 of a second to go, Connecticut has the lead. 73-72. As Connecticut got the 3 from Mullins after the turnover from Caden Boozer. Get it in.
The best part of that call, oh, he ran off the bench. It should be a technical. The Homer radio, and I don't blame them for this because, again, these are the hometown boys, right? As soon as the shot goes in, he is looking for something, anything that could save Duke with 3/10 left. The eyes immediately shift. This is a veteran move. Immediately shift. If this was football, what'd you be looking for? A flag on the play, right? You're hoping to be able to tell your audience, your Duke Blue Devil audience, that something, there's a whistle. Oh, there's a flag. Oh, there's an issue. And so he says, oh, he ran onto the field. It should be a technical. But then you hear the resignation in the voice immediately after. It's not going to be a technical, though. Imagine, James, if he had seen in the real moment what Dan Hurley had done to the referee.
He would have lost his mind.
He had an aneurysm on the air. It would have been a tragic end.
He wouldn't have. And I do give him credit as far as curbing his homerism a little bit in that, yes, he immediately went to, that should be a technical, but he didn't belabor it. He just moved right on. We've heard a lot worse.
Oh, for sure.
As far as that goes. So I give him
How
credit.
How did that just happen? We've heard it all.
I've given credit for objectivity that way, but yeah, it is funny that he, like, a guy goes on the court like 3 inches, maybe a foot, and oh, it should be a technical. Like,
also there was a timeout called.
Yeah, happens. And this kind of, I applaud the referees in this sense, swallowing their whistle, because you gotta give the players in particular enough leeway to know, hey, that's it. Do you know what just happened? I'm okay if they ran on the court a couple of feet. And the guy, Smith, by the way, immediately realizes, oh crap, I shouldn't be on the court, and runs right back. Like, he was maybe on that far on the court for like a second at the most. So, but yeah, it is. Of course, you're gonna do that. Like, that's what you got to do as the Duke radio guy, right?
We will give you, in A Tale of Two Cities, we will give you the exuberant radio call. We will give you the crestfallen radio call anytime there's a buzzer beater, a last second field goal scenario like this. We'll make that a part of the show, because both of them, the emotion in both of them is really what, like, that's sport.
It went in!
That's my favorite part.
Oh. The disbelief almost.
It went in. So good.
All right. Oh, that's great.
We should ask Tony Parks if he's ever been that exasperated at a big time call that buzzer beater, game winning homer, or whatever.
The voice of the Bees and other things. Tony Parks is going to join us next. He's here in studio, and there's an art to being a play-by-play announcer. It is something I'm trying to get a lot better at. I've only really done a lot of it on the combat sports thing, and I tell you, you don't know when you should really – you don't always know, I should say, when you should really, crack the voice over a particular happenstance. So I'm not judging. I like listening to the hometown radio.
Have you ever had a moment calling fights where you're like, oh crap, I don't have a voice?
Yes.
I'm that excited.
Yes. Yeah, that happened with we had one fight night. This is a couple years ago now, where we had 3 championship bouts in the same night. So there were 3 25-minute bouts, right? So it was just like a little bit more of a slog, and then one of them ended in this crazy knockout. And I'm glad they've buried it, because I think my voice.
Think it sounded very good.
I think my voice cracked like puberty, which is not good.
I'm gonna find it, and we're gonna play it.
Don't
the Sean O'Connell Show.
They'll find it. All right, Tony Parks joins us to start hour number 3. You're listening to Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Hour number 3 here on a Monday. Sean O'Connell Show, and we're lucky enough to welcome Tony Parks here in studio ahead of Bees' home opening day. Minor League Baseball is already underway, as is Major League Baseball, but the first home game at the ballpark is going to be tomorrow night. Tony Parks, welcome to the show.
Hey, happy to be here, man. I love being here.
Good to see you, sir.
Oh, it's great to be back. Got in from Las Vegas last night, ready for the home opener tomorrow. Ready to go, man.
Sacramento River Cats in town against your Salt Lake Bees. And opening day, you've got special Tuesday night is Holmes family nights.
That's right.
4 seats for $40. Bring the whole family. Enjoy a night at the ballpark with a special offer. Minimum purchase of 4 seats, maximum of 8. So, I like that. They know that a family night for a Utah family can sometimes be more than 4 tickets.
Yes.
So they let you go up to 8. That's good.
Yeah. Well, we know that. We want to make sure we're catering to families, making sure it's great family fun entertainment. Speaking of entertainment, I think you're really going to like what we have this year during the offseason. A ton of work with game presentation to elevate to major league caliber. That's kind of a big focus for us. It's fun working in minor league baseball. I mean, even before the stadium change and the hype about Major League Baseball coming someday, our big focus was what can we do in our control that is at major league caliber, right? And so for the broadcast, we put all of our focus in that. But same thing with game presentation. We want to make sure it's got the feels of something, everything that's in our control. And so I know Brecken Johnson, a guy who has he obsesses over the smallest details to try and perfect it. That guy is one of those 18, 19 hours a day. He'll text me or reach out to me about, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? And he's always wanting to make sure that it's not like, hey, we're pretending to be major league. No. He embraces all of the entertainment to reach that level. And so I'm excited to see what we have coming up.
They've got promotions going on all season. Of course, the ballpark at America First Square, opening day tomorrow night. Your first Dirty Sodas night,
yeah, baby,
is on Wednesday. Swig Wednesdays.
I am so fired up for that.
I was a little bit bothered by the reaction that I got here in studio from James and from Spence. And I love alternate branding. And minor league baseball is one of the only places left where you can have just like good old-fashioned silly fun in the professional sports landscape. Right? And it's local. It's like, is it poking a little bit of fun at ourselves? Maybe. Is it more just something like, it's great. It is a great thing. And I'm not even like, I don't even have like the punch card for Swig. I don't go actually drink these things that often, but I love that it's like very quintessentially Utah and they leaned all the way into it.
So it's fun because in all the years I've been around minor league baseball, I make it very clear. I'll do minor league. There's certain things we're going to do that's minor league, right? Some promotional nights, some unique fun things. You want the fun and the experience of what minor league brings in its creativity. You don't want small time. Now, this isn't small time. It's not a free paperclip for the first 100 fans that show up, and you're like, that is so dumb, and nobody cares. And it's like, oh, but I got a story in the newspaper. No. I always made it clear. I'll do minor league. I won't do small time. Small time is just not for me. But minor league, that's what this is. Here's the other thing I always say about it, OC, and I don't know what your thoughts were about this, but I had a buddy of mine who was like, man, you know what I miss? When the Jazz would do their starting lineup. You know that song, what's that song? It's like, yeah, Sirius, the Alan Parsons Project. Yeah, it was so cool. It's like, yeah, the song from the Chicago Bulls that they just stole. No. I'm like, yeah. They literally stole that for the Bulls. No, but you know what I used to love? They had this video of like the basketball and it's going over the mountains and it's going through the city and it goes to the arena. I'm like, yeah, just like the video of the Bulls when it trots through the city and goes to the arena, where they pretty much just said copy, paste. And the reason why I say that is this. There's a real thing in this market where everybody is so deathly afraid of being made fun of that it's like, you know what? The Timberwolves are doing this. Let's do that too. And I'm not even critical of BYU in this area. But every time I watch their game presentation, like Penn State, Lakers, Iceland soccer,
not Iceland soccer.
To do
you cannot rip Iceland soccer.
I'm not even ripping it. I'm just pointing out all the stuff that they did that they stole from other teams. Texas A&M. Okay, that's it. I'm not even critical. The fans love it.
Are you suggesting
they
that
get into
the acronym ROC, the Rock, the Roar, the Cougar, is something that might have been adopted because their rival to the north finally got a little traction with something called the Mighty Utah Student
And
Section?
by the way,
would you suggest anything?
Hold on a second. The Rock is cool. That's a great idea. I actually like that concept. That was like somewhat original, right?
Was it though? Because they just did it after the Muss called themselves the Muss.
Okay, but like it's still their own thing.
Okay, sure.
They didn't call themselves like they didn't like randomly have it almost identical to the Muss. I don't know what that would have been, but the point is at least. But I'm not even being critical. What I'm saying is, it's like, ooh, that's cool. Let's take that, and the fans get into it. By the way, it's a great experience for the fans. I'm not even trying to be critical. What I'm saying is, this is one of the very rare times we have something so original, unique. It connects with the market. It's having some fun with the minor league element. It makes. By the way, when I was in Vegas, everybody's like, "What's the dirty sodas? How did?" So now I'm giving the backstory.
Sure.
Which it's an amazing backstory if you know how Swig came together and a wonderful woman who overcame so much and creates this business. Like, there's, you know what? To me, I'm like, that is something cool. Now we have something like that. The Mammoth, which I love all the stuff they've done with Tusks Up. And it's like, there we go, guys. Now there's something there. Whereas far too often I saw things where it was copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. Well, we know this works over there. And I'm like, I have no idea what we have to do with Iceland soccer.
It is a very strange nuance to living in Utah where you're fiercely proud of being in Utah.
Yeah.
But you're also like a little self-conscious about what California and New York think of you.
Right.
And it's something I agree, have to get away from. And I think that leaning into what makes Utah like this, if it was called the Utah Dirty Sodas all season long, I'd be like, guys, that's too much. That's like, come on. They're the Salt Lake Bees. That's a good brand. Let's lean into that. That's wonderful. But Major League Baseball has this long history. Minor League Baseball has this long history of doing these alternate branding nights.
Awesome.
Where, you're the yard poodles for 7 games a year or whatever. And it's something that makes perfect sense for the local community.
Right.
So I'm a big fan.
I go to Reno, and they have the BLC 9, biggest little city, and they really get into that. Like, they really, really get into that. I love it. Las Vegas, they sing Viva Las Vegas after the 7th inning stretch. Deep in the heart of Texas, down there at Round Rock, right? They get really into El Paso has all these unique traditions. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, we need more of that. And it's not, by the way, here's the other thing. It's not forced, right? It's very genuine, and it's something organic from the state of Utah. And I think it's a rare thing that's happened. And so I think it's cool. I'm a fan of it, and I'm excited that it's a part of what we're doing.
So I've given some of the other food examples that they had in minor league. The Louisville humidity. They're doing some rebranding in Louisville about like it's a sweat themed rebrand. So have a little bit of fun with it.
Yeah.
All right. That's the Louisville Bats are being the. This is actually terrible. The jerseys are gonna have pit stains sewn into them. Sweat patches already on the jerseys. It's wonderful.
But I think it's neat that as we emerge to maybe being and hopefully being a market with 3 major pro sports teams, that there is some generic pride in being here. Like, take some pride in being in Utah. I love Salt Lake. I love everything that it is to be in Salt Lake. The mountains, the people, the energy. There's the passionate fans that we have for so many different sports and events. It's great. Instead, we go and make our own selves the butt of the jokes. And the green jello, ha, ha, ha. I'm like, that's just lame. Like, what are we doing? Like, actually embrace how great it is to be a part of the state.
Automated ball strike system in Major League Baseball and in minor league baseball. What do you think of it?
So anytime baseball has improved a situation, instant replay forever ago, whatever it is, the pitch clock, we can go on and on and on. So many people swear there's a monster in the closet, and then it just ends up being better every time. The ABS system, which I would still be in favor of automatic, actually calling all of them automatic. If we want to get all the calls right, let's get all the calls right. And then I see when it first was introduced into minor league baseball and I was calling the games, and people were like, oh, it's just terrible. And like, leave the game alone. All of a sudden, we don't have shouting matches. Last year I had 2 ejections, none of them over balls and strikes.
It would have been 2 years ago now. Took the girls out to the game, and we sat behind home plate, and it was the first time I had seen it put into practice, the challenge system, And I was like, ooh, okay, let's see if I actually like how this works. Because kind of like with instant replay, there's a way that you can, worry about, is it bogging down the pace of the game and things like that. And I saw it done for the first time in the ballpark, not with a television crew telling me how to feel about it or whatever, right? You're just sitting there.
Just as a
you
fan,
got your Dippin' Dots, you got your hot dog, whatever. And I'm just watching, and it was smooth as butter. It was easy. It was that particular umpire.
Oh, I know.
Got them all wrong, so kept getting overturned, which I'm sure is incredibly frustrating
and rare, by the way.
But
that was a 1 out of 150 that year.
Yeah. But right, it was all right. How long is it going to take when the batter steps out of the box and says, "No, I don't think so"? It was a 7-second ordeal, and then you just move on. I was like, okay, that is a technological improvement, and I'm a traditionalist in a lot of ways, but that doesn't cause enough problem for me. There's not enough barrier to normal baseball created by it that we should not be using it. And the Twins lost the other night because of it. And I'm a Twins fan, but it's like, you know what? It's improving the product. And that's what we should be trying to do in all these professional sports.
Well, I like it because so there's a few different things. One, it's actually showing how good these umpires are. Like, I know you're going to look on social media and see the misses. Like, C.B. Buckner missed 2 in a row, and the crowd is going crazy. Yeah. Buckner missed 2 in a row. Many other times, you're going to see times where the player's wrong. I saw that yesterday in my game. There was a ball nearly right down the middle, and the crowd was like, whoa. The other thing you'll find is when the umpires miss, we're talking 0.1 inches, 0.3 inches. Most times their misses are very close. The other thing this does is it gives them in-game feedback. Like, you know what? That ball's down. Or you know what? That ball is at the strike zone. And usually they'll make adjustments as they go. What you have to understand about being a home plate umpire is you're dealing with, first of all, you're not centered. The catcher is. Second of all, you have an obstructed view. You're using depth perception. You have all kinds of life and movement. The ball's moving really, really fast, and you're using the naked eye. So if you're off by 0.3 inches, that doesn't mean you're a bad umpire. It just means you got the call wrong, and we get it right, and there should be a lot of respect moving forward. The umpires now are better than they've ever been. That night you were there, I know exactly what you're talking about. That umpire missed 12, I think it was.
It's a bad deal.
And the crowd is just like, wow. And there was a one-off. And every year you'll see one game like that. So if you watched major pro athletes and you watched those Follies videos, you would see a bunch of people who didn't even look like they belonged on an athletic field. Same thing with umpires. They're performing. Most of them are excellent. I'm not just sticking up for them. But this makes it even better. And I like that the players have some control now. The last thing I'll say about it is the strike zone should never have been the umpires. This idea that, you got to manage this situation where, each umpire, he's a no-nonsense guy. He's a pitcher's umpire, and he's a batter's umpire. What are we doing here?
Yeah, no,
Quit screwing with the game.
That is something, and it was always strange to me that the purists in baseball were like, this is how it's always been.
Yeah, deception's a good thing.
It's like, what? No, what are we talking about here? I shouldn't have to, as a batter or as a pitcher for that matter, or as a catcher trying to frame pitches the right way, I shouldn't have to know the mood and the personal tendencies of Jimmy or Joe or Sally behind me. Mm-hmm. It should be uniformity. I used to umpire Little League games. Yeah. Shout out.
I can imagine.
Shout out Bear Park, all right, when I was like 13 years old. And you would have those kids who would come up, and when these were like 9-year-olds, right? So the size disparity in that age range, you have some kids that are my height as a 15-year-old, and you had the kid who was like, it's when he got in the batter's box, it was 4 inches from his elbows to his knees.
The strike zone was a credit card.
The strike zone is just not even there. And in that case, like, okay, there's some difficulty. These are Major League Baseball players, right? We should not have to be like, all right, well, on Tuesday night, you got this much room, but on Wednesday night, it's a different umpire, so you got this much room. And on Thursday night, it's the first umpire again, so you're back to the regular thing. Uniformity and making it more of a statistically data-driven thing has historically in sports, even after the resistance, has been good for the fan. And I think that's the case with these automatic strikes.
Oh, yeah. Bobby Valentine I had a great conversation with him once where he told me a story about an umpire who, I think it was the All-Star break or something, right? His last game before the All-Star break, and he needed to get out of there and flight at this time, and the game was taking so long. And he literally tells Bobby, I'm just opening it up. I'm opening up the straw. I'm just telling you right now. And it's like, wait, that was acceptable? Like, that was, you're messing with people's careers. He butchers a call at home plate on purpose, because of how it would affect the timing of the game. and Bobby's laughing. It's been many moons since this game, but he goes, it's so strange, Tony. That's the way it was. Like, and I'm like, well, that wasn't good. Like,
yeah.
At no point was Eric Gregg's strike zone good. And I used to hate hearing like, well, that's the way he's calling it. You got to adjust. And yeah, it's like that's not good for the game.
That's right. It's not good for the game. And by the way, it's a game that is in a really, in my opinion, odd place in American culture right now, where baseball is this tradition of our grandfathers and our fathers and some of us that are of this millennial age, that we came up playing it, we came up watching it, we came up loving it, and it's not what it was. It's not what it used to be from a place in the culture standpoint, but there's no reason it can't get back to that. There's no reason that it can't improve and that it can't sort of be adjusted away from the old school traditions like these ones we're talking about to something that is more of a package that us and our kids are going to be accepting of the way that we were when we were little kids with our moms and dads. So I like that baseball is acknowledged, like, hey, we can do some things to get us back to where we should be as America's pastime.
Totally. I think the game's only gotten better because of this stuff. So it's been good.
You love to see it. All right. The major leagues. I know you're calling minor league baseball, but you're a major league guy yourself. So who's the tier of actual contenders? Who's the upstart team? What is the baseball storyline that has your greatest attention right now?
Well, of course, the tiers of this thing are always going to, everybody wants to know, like, who are the contenders, who are the pretenders.
It's like, okay, payroll.
Yeah. And some of that is just, fact of the matter. Well, I thought Toronto looked outstanding. I thought the Yankees looked great, man. They really suffocated the Giants. I mean, that was a sound beating 3 games in a row. The Angels had a nice start to this thing. I know they're the parent club of the Bees and split with the Astros. I came into this thing going, you know what? I'm not looking away from the Astros. They still have a lot of talent in that system. They still have a lot of, and I think it was a failure not to make the playoffs last year, right? But there's something about them that has been underperforming as of late. I mean, the Brewers, I know that it was only against the White Sox, but I think that team could very well end up with the best record in the NL when it's done. I know the Dodgers are going to have a lot to say about that. So that's going to make it a lot of fun. So I don't think when I look at the real contenders, Dodgers, Brewers, and I know people want to make a lot still about the Phillies, but I still think they have a lot to prove as well. And I like the Blue Jays and the Yanks. And then, of course, I know Seattle didn't have as good a weekend as they wanted, but I think Seattle's going to compete and contend right towards the top as well. Now, the Central Division teams, now I know Detroit, they won the series against Cleveland after giving up the division. Cleveland is that team that I love to root for because I love the way they get the most out of what they have. They still need more. Like, and they prove it every October. You're not going to get into October and fluke your way to a World Series anymore. There's too many rounds. There's too many good teams. And while I wasn't as big on some of the expansion for the playoffs initially, I like that you do have to have more than just to get in and see what happens. You can't fluke your way to the World Series. You've got to be able to win a series, win another series. You have to have depth, and you have to have strength in a lot of areas. You can't just be a one-trick pony. So, but I'll tell you, I like Toronto. I like New York. I think it's going to be a great battle in the East. It's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a fun regular season, but I think it's instead of this, hey, it's wide open. This is kind of, there's a lot of teams. No, I think there's quite a short list of teams who are going to legitimately contend.
Well, I think that's partially a function of the fact that, it is not a hard salary cap league, and the Twins are now the Oakland A's. So you're like,
I hate to say it.
That's the team I grew up watching, right? Yeah. That's the team that I grew up caring about, and they've relegated themselves because of owner decisions, leadership decisions, to being a team that identifies great young talent, helps develop that great young talent, and then because they don't believe in their own product and their own ability to push that young talent into contention, then they're like, okay, let's sell this young talent to a buying team, and we'll stockpile more draft picks and reload our farm system and things like that. And look, it's a function of economics, and the economics in baseball right now have certain teams that are just absolute monsters, Goliath payrolls that most of the time translate into being pretty good, successful postseason teams. I realize it's not just as simple as, well, if you pay the most, you're going to win. It's not that way in any sport. But would baseball serve themselves and their fans better if they instituted some level of regulation on the salary cap?
I'd like to see that. I've always wanted to see that. And I understand that, it is tough, because if you're not going to pay, it's going to be really tough. Yes. You're just not going to nickel and dime your way to a championship. We appreciate it when it happens. We root for those teams.
Like, Moneyball is a great
movie, but you could see they weren't going to win the whole thing.
Right.
You're going to lose to Minnesota in 5. Then you're going to lose to Boston when you should have won that series in 2002 or 2003, actually. Okay. And then you are always this plucky, try-hard regular season team that I got behind. I loved them. I was always rooting for them. I loved those guys, Kotze to Chavez to, Eric Burns. Like, I loved those dudes. Long, Die. That was blue-collar baseball. You're always behind them. You hope they win, but you're always like, you still don't have this. And by the way, Moneyball, great movie. But let's not leave out that you had 3 of the best starters in baseball. Can we just stop acting like, they were out there with Kurt Liskanek or something like that?
Pitching has never mattered in baseball.
They're like, Scott Hatteberg got us to, 20 straight wins. I'm not saying that Hatteberg didn't have a role in some sort of thing, but geez, you only had 3 of the best pitchers out there, and you just happened to line up that rotation. Anyway.
Wasn't that Chris Pratt's first skinny guy role, playing Hatteberg in that movie?
Yeah, you might be right.
I think that was the first time we saw Chris Pratt outside of being chubby Andy from Parks and Rec, if I'm not mistaken. Which one came out first, Zero Dark 30 or Moneyball? Because, he was a Navy SEAL in that one, and nobody was just like, wait, that's the fat guy from The Office. Anyway, we digress. I can't let you get out of here before we talk a little March Madness.
Oh, man.
Especially because your beloved Michigan Wolverines have been dog-walking everybody to the Final Four. Now, I think that the right thing to do as a Utah or BYU fan is to hope that the Big 12 can take home a championship with the Arizona Wildcats, and that's what's standing in front of your Michigan Wolverines right now. But they have looked really, really good, and we've got some fascinating matchups here in the Final Four.
Oh, I love it. I love this matchup, Arizona, Michigan. I think it's a coin flip game. I'll give an edge to Michigan. I think Michigan has a weapon. I think Michigan has a weapon that no team, I don't think any team has this weapon, and I don't think they have an answer for it, and that's the vertical spacing that's created by Mara. Not only is he tall, he can go up, he's agile, and at any time, if you're not ready for it, they could put it up for an alley-oop dunk, and then if you do cover it, it helps open up space for shooters. And so you really have to decide what you want to live with when you play up against that offense when they're operating at an optimal level. The one thing that hurts Michigan is that Kaysen injury. Him coming off the bench was really, really big. And so if you make it 37 grueling minutes for Cadeau, then, it's a really tough thing. And I think Arizona can make that happen. Arizona can hit the shots. They have the defense. They have the playmaking on offense. They have everything you want. I think, some people have said that the Arizona-Michigan matchup is the national championship. I don't think I'll go that far, but I would favor whoever comes out of that to win the championship game. Yesterday, my wife and daughter went to the game at the United Center, that Elite Eight game, and my wife said that's the loudest she's heard the United Center. And she said that the crowd was pumped. She goes, that's as dominant as I've seen a team in the Elite Eight. What an exciting way for them to win. I was on the air the whole time, just corner eyeing the score. But I get to the airport, and I know the UConn-Duke game is finished. I don't know who won. And I pull up the condensed game. It's like 15 minutes. And I'm watching it. I thought Duke would win. Thought it'd be a good game. And then I'm like, oh, man, I was wrong. Duke is boat racing these guys.
It wasn't a good game for
They're up
most
19,
of the game, actually.
They're in control. And then I see Duke start to make a couple mistakes, and I'm like, all right, they've opened the door here. Connecticut's got a shot, got a chance here. I see a few other mistakes. I'm like, well, mess around long enough, bad things can happen. But, I mean, they're not going to lose this thing. And then I'm watching it towards the end, and they're unable to get the steal, and then they break the press, and then they don't break the press, and I see him get it, and I'm like, oh, UConn's got a chance here. And they hit that three-pointer. That is the most shocked that I have been. Not at a play and a finish since the Weber timeout.
Now let me
in NCAA tournament. That is the most just full on. I mean, I just jaw dropped. I'm sitting there in the Vegas airport like, what did I just watch?
Okay, now on the broadcast, you could not see Dan Hurley going forehead to forehead with a referee. Have you seen this video?
No, I don't think I have.
You know what? I have to.
You have to show it to me.
I have to show you this video.
Are you talking about while the play's happening?
After the play, the ensuing timeout, I'm just gonna let you watch it on my computer here because it is insane. Okay, so this is what the game is happening. This is just on a loop here. Okay. This is Dan Hurley.
What in the world would you possibly be doing that for? Up one with 0.4 seconds.
You're up one with less than a second.
The only way you're going to lose is a technical foul.
Is a technical foul. Tech or no tech, Tony, because most of the time when I see something happen in sports or after sports, I'm just like, I have this take of, you got to call that or you can't call that.
Well,
this one, I'm just like, I lean towards you can't call that. You, the referee, don't want to decide the outcome of this game. But also, it's not a player being dumb. It's a coach, right? And I'm also like, how do you let this slide without it being a technical?
You better have said something like, nice call on that jump ball. Nope, I agree. Or good no call on whatever. Or well, I don't know what in the world. And, but if you told him, yeah, we won this game despite your terrible performance, whatever you say. But, you make contact with an official with your head? This better have been a compliment. But you decide to go rooster in a hen house with your jacket halfway off.
And then he stares at him as he backs away.
Whoa,
it's bananas.
Bro.
It's as disrespectful a move as we have seen from a head coach.
You're asking for it.
And there's no tech. And, again, I'm like, I think it's better that the tech wasn't called. But also I'm like, man, how do you let a coach get away with this?
Well, no, if he earned it, it should have been called. And I'm not you can't talk to a ref like that. No, if he earned it.
Sure.
That's why we go back to that ejection with a Coastal Carolina and that College World Series game. And I know we don't need to open up the can of worms. I wouldn't have ejected him, but I could see why he pushed the envelope unnecessarily to leave the door open that somebody else would, because by the book, you did earn the ejection. I don't know what to tell you. What are you doing? He just gave you a warning, and you're out there beyond the warning track screaming at him. So he throws you, and everybody's like, oh, this is a championship game. No. So I don't care if it's the Elite Eight. If he earned it, it should have been called. I don't know if like I said, he may have said something like, nice job on that, whatever. He might have complimented him. I've seen, you never want to assume that body language automatically means hostility. It doesn't look good. Meanwhile, I've seen situations where somebody gets thrown out of a baseball game, and they're like, he was walking away. I'm like, I don't care. If he calls him an FCS, he's ejected. Right? You can't just say whatever you want or do whatever you want and then look at the bracket and justify it. So if he earned it, he's lucky he didn't get that called. But like I said, I don't know Hurley enough. He could have said something like, are we just fixing the clock? Okay, cool. I don't know. But everything about his body language,
it's just wild.
Screams arrogance.
It's just wild. And again, I let the basketball figure out a basketball game, so I'm very happy about that. I'm glad for that. But man, This is one of those things, and I'm glad I'm talking to a baseball guy, right? This is one of those things where it's like the next time that you see that person, you're plunking them in the box. You have it's like if you're this referee and you're watching this over and over and over again, the way that I am, you're like, yeah. Next time I see that dude, I am making his life miserable.
Delay a game warning before the game starts.
I'm just calling the pettiest, most ridiculous game after that because I let you slide on this one. Next time, I can't. It just feels so bananas to me. And
I'll say this. Man, that game was wild. Yeah, fortunate there. I don't know, like, when's the last time during the tournament? I'm not talking about an upset. I'm not talking about, like, somebody just made a shot. Like, the Leitner shot wasn't shocking. Leitner was the best player in the nation. It was a great play. That's still the best college basketball game I've ever seen. But I'm just running through my mind of a sequence at the end of the game that I have been that jaw-dropped. The Weber one was shocking just because I knew they had no timeouts. Obviously, I'm anticipating, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then it was stunning because it was over, and it was the slowest death at the end of a game. Like, you see players on the bench like, we good. No, we're not. It's over.
It's done.
And that moment there was, you can see them break the press. You can see the dunk down at the other end that's about to end it. Then the deflection. Then you're like, oh, they got a chance. Well, it's not a great chance. Well, but he's got a good look, and it swishes in, and you're just like, what a flip.
I would have paid money to just watch a live stream of the rest of Mullins' night. Okay, you're a freshman who's kind of had a bad game, and you hit that shot. You're not telling me nothing the rest of the day.
And I think
I am insufferable after hitting that shot.
I heard somewhere that he thought the game was tied. That he, in the moment, thought he tied the game. Yeah, so he's not even going ballistic yet. He's like, all right, overtime we go.
Wow.
And so, like, each
good for
piece
you,
of this,
young fella.
that thing had, and I hate to bring up all the Michigan tragedies, but that thing had Blake O'Neal, Michigan State debacle, where he fumbles the snap on the punt and hands it off to Jalen Watts Jackson or whoever it was. And yeah, like that was the type of shock that whole sequence had.
And it's this thing that you tune into March Madness for. I think that
unreal.
I think that the tournament this year, because there weren't these like crazy on-court things that were happening, it caused us to kind of focus on the effect of off-court things on college basketball right now. The transfer portal's taking away these Cinderellas, and these teams with these big payrolls are either performing up to par or they're not. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about that more than we're talking about the crazy results. And this game finally gave us something like, oh, there you are, March Madness.
Oh,
that's what we were waiting for. That's the kind of chaos that we have come accustomed to and that we want from the college basketball tournament every single year. So good on you, UConn. And
that was so cool.
And by the way, if you're Duke, you now are developing some victim complex because you're the bluest of blue bloods, but you're watching people relish in your demise while the coach does the most arrogant, ridiculous behavior. You're like, how can you like UConn more than us?
Well, and the Duke call of it was like, so-and-so's on the floor. It's a technical foul.
Technical foul.
And it's like, no, it's a dead ball.
That's a technical foul.
They stopped the play to fix the clock, and no, it's not.
Anyway.
I was like, oh, you poor guys. All right, man.
Tony, it's great to have you in.
Dude, thanks for having me. Anytime, man.
Have fun with opening night tomorrow at the ballpark at America First Square out there in Harriman. 4 tickets for $40. Bring the family. If you need 8 tickets for $80, you can do it that way too. And then Wednesday night is the debut of the Utah Dirty Sodas. The Bees on a nice little homestand. Get out there and tell Tony Parks and the rest of the folks that you heard about it on the Sean O'Connell Show. Reminder also, Ute spring ball coverage is up. Sound is up on our website, ESPN700sports.com. Spring football coverage brought to you by Big Willie's, Game Day Men's Health, Burger Fusion, Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, and Mountain Home Services. All right, Utah State has a new basketball coach. We'll talk about that on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, the Utah State Aggies are headed to the Pac-12, and they'll have a new coach. A guy after roughly 2 decades at Northern Iowa, Ben Jacobson, he's agreed to a 5-year deal with the Utah State Aggies to succeed Jared Calhoun, who, of course, took over for Cincinnati. 397 games for UNI. He won 397 games, went to the tournament 5 times, including a Sweet 16 run in 2010.
Oh, dang, he was the coach that long ago? I was about to say, yeah, UNI had at least one run. I remember a long time ago. He's been around that long at UNI, huh?
He's been there for 20 years. So, look, is it a splash, sexy, like when you grab someone from Northern Iowa? No, but I'll tell you who it is splash and sexy for. For Coach Jacobson and his family and the people. Like, I have been to this part of the world many a time, okay? If you drive from Chicago to Dubuque, Iowa, you're going past Northern Iowa. Cedar Falls, Iowa is lovely for a Midwestern town. They have been practicing. Their basketball team has been practicing in the student municipal gym for the entirety of his career. They don't have their own facilities. The spectrum and what Utah State basketball has built and done is going to be the ultimate, in a positive way, culture shock for Ben Jacobson. It's also a guy that is not this rising young 40-year-old star that if he does have success at Utah State is going to be immediately looking for the next landing spot. I think that, unfortunately, you have to think about that if you're the Aggies now. Like, all right, we got a 40-something guy.
Pac-12 team now.
They are a Pac-12 team. But I think that you have to do these calculations, right? All right, I'm willing to give you a 5-year deal, and I'm hoping that if all things go well, you're actually there for at least 3 of those 5 years. There's been way too much turnover. They have survived it in a way that almost no other team does, but there's been way too much turnover in Logan, and this is someone who spent 20 years at his last stop. It's kind of like when Arizona hired Tommy Lloyd. They're just like, this guy is not using us as a stepping stone. Because,
I mean, although he is in the Carolina head coaching rumors.
He may very well end up using them as a stepping stone, but I actually have a hard time seeing that, especially with the level of success he's having in Tucson right now. I mean, you telling me that if Tommy Lloyd wins a national championship at Arizona, or even makes it to that championship game, and then Carolina's just like, we're going to pay you whatever, we'll give you $11 million, that Arizona's just going to be like, yeah, okay, we're not going to do that. We can't compete.
Yeah, Arizona's got the money to compete.
Like, I mean, and I guess North Carolina is still in a situation where you're more of a blue blood and you can offer maybe slightly more, and maybe the Michael Jordan connection matters to Tommy Lloyd if you get him more involved, but he cares about NASCAR right now more than he cares about the Tar Heels. North Carolina is a better job and a better basketball community than pretty much everywhere in the country, but Arizona's not far behind.
No.
Or they don't have to stay far behind because they can say, like, our resources in basketball are there in a way that, like, Utah can't, even BYU can't. So we'll see what happens there. But for Utah State, I like this hire, not because I know a ton about Ben Jacobson, not because I'm, like, a huge fan of Northern Iowa basketball and what they've done lately. It's been a while. They've been on a tournament drought. But it feels like a nice fit where he's the type of coach who's done more with less for 2 decades now, and you're going to give him more than he's had. And when you do give him more than he's had, instead of being like, okay, I have a taste of more than what I've had, now I want even more. So now when whomever offers me, that's where I'm going. This feels like a guy who's going to appreciate what Utah State's got and what Utah State can give him. And maybe you can get Carson Templin to get back out of the transfer portal or something like that and keep building on what Jared Calhoun and all of his predecessors have somehow miraculously built in Logan.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. I think that Aggies fans, at least based off of some of the responses I've seen on social media to the Jared Calhoun rumors that he would be leaving for a place like Cincinnati, so before they hired him, Aggies fans started to see the writing on the wall, and based off some of the reaction to that, they seem to have a lot of self-awareness and to be like, hey, we'll just keep this going. This thing that we're doing, that we've been able to do, we'll just keep it going with the next head coach. And they have no reason to believe that won't be the case with Ben Jacobson. So I'll say that, and I'll also say that it's not as if Jared Calhoun and Danny Sprinkle were these guys that had a way higher profile than Ben Jacobson, and yet they're the guys that you're like, oh man, I wish we should have, or even Craig Smith. Oh man, if we didn't lose that guy, maybe we well, and fortunately they don't have to do that because it's like, well, we kept it going. But they're not doing any hand wringing there for both of those reasons. Who's to say Ben Jacobson can't be better than Jared Calhoun?
Well, that's the thing, right? Utah State is not the program that North Carolina is right now. They're not the program that if Bill Self retires at Kansas, you have to check every dang box in order to get your fan base and the media and everyone else to be like, yeah, that's a good hire. Utah State's in a situation where we should be giving the leadership who has made these decisions in the past, we should be giving them grace and we should be giving them the benefit of the doubt because it has been great in Logan. They won 27 games this year.
They won a tournament game, yes, for the second time in 3 years. So they've been doing it recently, but also just the third one since 1971. Like things have been better than they've ever been in Logan.
So congrats to Aggie fans out there and to Coach Jacobson. Until there's reason for me to believe that this is anything but a good move, I'm going to believe it's a good move because I don't question their decisions up there.
No. By the way, should we get Mom and Pop O'Connell on the show to break down Northern Iowa and Ben Jacobson? They live in the area, right?
They lived in the
area. Oh, they don't anymore? Okay.
They live in Oklahoma now.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But that's where they're from. My parents are from eastern Iowa, Dubuque, Iowa. But they're.
I forgot that you had told me that they moved somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, maybe they can help us break down this hire.
That would actually be hilarious because I can tell you this with dead certainty: my mother has never watched one college basketball game ever.
Okay.
My dad will watch the tournament, but not big sports people. You might be surprised to know. All right, we've got some Weezer tickets to give away as we close out the show, some crosstalk, some final points to make, brought to you by Advanced Window Products next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, we have Weezer tickets for you. 877-353-0700. How many games did Ben Jacobson win at Northern Iowa? 877-353-0700. We just talked about it. If you were listening and paying attention, we'll give you 2 tickets to Weezer coming to the Maverick Center September 15th. Reminder, our good friends over at Advanced Window Products have incredible sales going on right now. This is the time of year, though, when everyone is finally getting outside and looking at their houses and going like, oh, man, those windows look bad. I better give them a call. $2,500 off, 10 windows or more, advancedwindowproducts.com. Sorry, advancedwindows.com. Now's the time to get that going. Because the rush begins now with the nice weather, it's important for you to make the phone call today. You don't want to get caught in this long line. Now, they'll keep it within 6 to 8 weeks maximum, but you don't want to be the one calling last, taking advantage of the sale last. $2,500 off, 10 windows or more. If you just need window coverings, they can handle that for you. If you need windows and window coverings, they'll also take care of you on both fronts. And remember, it is a lifetime warranty. Not for the next 3 years, not for the next 5 years, not for the next 10 years, not for however long it takes you to pay off the windows if you choose the financing options. It is the life of your home. As long as these windows exist, they are covered by our friends over at Advanced Window Products. Nate Orchard, Jake Weber, and company are going to take care of you for the life of the window, no matter how long that life is. Make sure you go to our ESPN700sports.com website to take advantage of all of the clipped interviews. It was great talking with Tony Parks today. It was great catching up with Ari Temkin. He was awesome. We have sound from Utah football practices. Practice media availability happening again tomorrow and Thursday, so we'll have more of that. We'll keep it freshened up for you.
Little viewing period tomorrow too. Once again,
you love that.
So you won't have to ask, hey, you won't have to ask the receiver, hey, who's covering you the best right now? Which,
No.
by the way, I stole that question from
I
you
like that.
a couple weeks ago because it was not a viewing. We didn't have a viewing period yet, and it was Kyrie Scholes. I said, who's covering you best right now? And he said Scooby, and then immediately said, but I don't want to say anything bad about anyone else. Like, everyone's doing good. But he only said Scooby.
All right. Okay.
Which you'd expect.
Yeah, you kind of expect the starting corner to be the best one. Also the viewing period allows you to be asking really annoying questions. So where you could be like, hey, I saw Scooby batted down that pass. Why'd you let that happen? And then the players can get mad. So it's perfect. It's excellent. The Drive with Spence Checketts is coming up next. And Spence Checketts is back. It'll be Spence instead of Porter, Sarah Todd, James.
Sarah, who did an incredible job, by the way.
Great job, Sarah, filling in.
And she said she was super nervous going in, but she said she had a great time.
One problem that we had was one problem we had though was that Sarah, she shared some horrifically bad cereal takes, and you can't do that. You can't. That was my only grievance against Sarah hosting. Spence is here. Hi.
Hello. How are you?
Great. Welcome back.
It's good to be back. You know this because you travel internationally as much, if not more, than anyone I know.
Yeah.
I always say the same thing. It's always good to leave. Always feels really good to come back.
It's so nice to come back.
Yeah, like you step off the plane and you're home. And you're like, okay, that was fun. Good experience. Glad I did it. Really glad I'm home.
Yeah.
Good to sleep in my bed. Had a good time. Played a lot of golf.
Okay.
Laid on the beach.
One of those things sounds awesome.
Yeah, you're a huge golfer. We get it, Sean.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a random occurrence. Sitting, watching one of the March Madness games. Couple is sitting next to me. Strike up a conversation, and the guy's wife is like, he went to get a drink, and the guy's wife was like, so where are you from? Told her my hometown. She's like, oh, we're from Jersey, but we lived in New York. She said my husband was actually in television for a while. I was like, oh, really? And like, yeah, he's semi-retired. Now he's kind of making movies here or there. Turns out he's the head writer for Letterman for 25 years.
Oh, no big deal.
Yeah, like in television, dabbled in TV for a while. He's a huge, like massive mogul, like big time guy. So I just sat there. He's actually going to come on the show. Super nice dude.
Cool.
He just made a movie on Netflix with Paul Rudd. I don't know what it's called. I should look it up. But I just sat there for like an hour asking him questions about David Letterman and working on that show. Dabbled in television. Now, it turns out he was the head writer for Letterman for 25 years.
Wow, we used to watch Letterman. That was kind of my last. Well, I watched Conan for a little while after.
Yeah, Conan's great, but Letterman over Leno every single day.
I probably watched the Tonight Show with Jay Leno like 4 times in my entire life.
Yeah, no, always a Letterman guy. But it was fun. Good to be back. Hit the ground running. Now back at it, and here we go.
I have to tell you, Jeremy Renner came to the PFL fights this weekend in
cool.
Pittsburgh.
Very cool.
That was very fun. I kept calling him Hawkeye, and I'm sure he hated it.
To his face?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we saw Ryan Clark. We saw Joey Porter Jr. and Sr. It was a fun, bloody affair in Pittsburgh. So if you didn't get a chance to check out the PFL fights over the weekend, you can find them online. I have to ask you, the very odd scenario that unfolded as UConn is celebrating the buzzer beater, and Dan Hurley goes forehead to forehead with a referee, and then kind of stares him down, and I'm not trying to hot take myself here. Most of the time when I see something where a referee could step in and they don't, I'm like, good for the referee letting the game figure itself out here. It wasn't a player doing that where you would give like a college kid a little grace there. Mm-hmm. I still don't want you to call a tech at that point and have Duke win because of that. But also, I'm like, how does this unfold? And you're obviously more of a basketball guy than myself. So when you saw it, what were your thoughts?
Well, let's start here. Dan Hurley is a lunatic.
Yes.
Okay, let's start right there. Full stop period at the end of that sentence. So Seth Davis is reporting that ref is a buddy of Dan Hurley's.
Okay, that was my first instinct.
Yeah.
That, like, these guys know each other, and the ref, as he's coming over, gives him, like, the eyebrow raise, I can't believe that just happened. Yeah. Like, we're not going to celebrate together, but that's the only way you get away with it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because if you didn't know any better, and when I first saw the clip, I'm like, okay, you got to do something with that. You can't do nothing at this stage of the game. I mean, what are you going to do? Tell him you can't coach in the Final Four? It's a weird thing. And a lot of these coaches and refs are actually friendly. So, but it's hard to know. There's no website that tracks friendships with coaches and refs. So you don't know in real time. But oftentimes when Danny Hurley, according to Seth Davis, who is very plugged in the world of college basketball, when Danny Hurley oftentimes is going at one of these refs, he knows them. They'll go out after the game and have a beer and have dinner. I mean, he still treats them like, they're pieces of you-know-what. But Seth Davis is the one that's reporting that those two are, like, really good friends.
Okay, so they go golfing together and hang out in Cabo or wherever you were, and then
I guess,
and then he headbutts him on national television every once in a while.
Regardless of the level of friendship, still probably something you don't do.
Probably,
but yeah, there's the context there. It was still college basketball coaches like Mick Cronin, the UCLA coach. Are you okay? That dude is unwell.
Yeah, he's a psycho. And my favorite thing about Mick Cronin is even when it goes well for his team and they win by like buzzer beater, his first thing, his disposition dictates that he's got to sit down and be like, these kids these days.
Yeah, like Danny Hurley is a lunatic, but I think I'd go to dinner with him. But Mick Cronin, I don't want to be in the same room as Mick Cronin. Like with sharp objects. That dude is not well. There's something about some of these college coaches like man babies. Regulate yourself. Act right, please. Do some breath work.
All right.
Maybe cold plunge.
The Drive with Spence Checketts is up next. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. We'll do it again tomorrow on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.